A calm breeze blew in the air, and a beautiful scarlet sunset shone its last rays of light for the day onto Konoha, as the sun began to disappear below the horizon. One by one, the street lamps and lights in the residential and commercial areas flickered on. Just another busy day and night in the city of Konoha. The old walls and buildings from times past contrasting with the ever-modernizing, always bustling, city center. The marketplace of Konoha, near the center of the city, was lighting up as people come from all over the city to buy, eat, drink, socialize, and hang out with their friends. Another day of patrols, Kiba sighed, with Akamaru in tow as usual. I mean, nothing really bad ever really happens anymore. The head of the Konoha police force, Kotaro, scoffed at him. Well, there were the Byakuya gang robberies a while back, remember that? There are other attempted robberies, suicides, and petty crimes from time to time. And there was that attack by Sumair Kake and Nu, but that was a one-off and shouldn't happen again. And you have the Momoshiki attacks too. Kiba growled, annoyed that he was corrected. Well yeah, but those don't happen often at all, do they? Ha 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 ha, well true, but what's a police force for if we don't patrol and make sure they don't happen often? Another groan left Kiba, who gave up trying to talk his way out of the patrol. I guess so. Also, remember? Kotaro patted Kiba on the shoulder and leaned in closer to him, afraid that other passers-by would hear him and become panicked. We've received reports from Lord 7th and the Intel Division headed by Sai. They're saying that the Kara organization is planning something. Better keep an eye out for anything suspicious, inside and outside the city walls. Kiba remembered what Naruto and Sasuke told him about Kara, their aims, powers, and methods. It reminded him a lot of the Akatsuki, but he wasn't that concerned. After all, the world is now united, and the 5 great nations and several smaller nations, such as the Land of Rain, the Land of Grass, and the Land of Sound, are all in the Shinobi Union. And not to mention, they do have several of the strongest and most skilled ninja in history, with Naruto and Sasuke on top of that list. Still, Kiba thought, it doesn't hurt to be cautious. He nodded to Kotaro and they, along with an eager Akamaru, went along on their patrol. At the Hokage's residence, Naruto was finishing up all the reports and papers for the day. Today was lighter than usual, he noticed, as he printed the last documents and turned his chair around to face the sunset. He had not seen one this beautiful in a long while, with the sun almost completely down, and the rolling, puffy clouds illuminated in differing shades of orange, scarlet, and red. The door opened, and Shikamaru entered with some take-home ramen from Ichiraku. Those sunsets aren't that rare, you know? It's just that you always have your back towards it while doing your work. Shikamaru put down the ramen on the table, and noticed that Naruto has shut down his computer. So that's why you noticed the sunset. You're already done for today. Hey, that's surprising, considering you always end up finishing the day closer to 10 p.m., and it's such a drag. Naruto replied, yeah, today was sorta light, you know? But I'm actually waiting on Sai and Sasuke to come. They should have more information about what Kara is up to. Well, I bought you the ramen you love, so we can eat while waiting for them. They fix the table up and eat the ramen. Halfway through the meal, Sai rushed into the room. We've intercepted a message, from someone outside the city to someone inside, Sai informed Naruto and Shikamaru. Encrypted and coded. I deeply suspect it has to be Kara though, no one else would have to use a secret code. Shikamaru nodded. It's surely Kara then. How long will it take you to decipher it? I don't know. We haven't deciphered their encryption yet, though we have another coded missive from 3 months ago, and one from 2 weeks ago. We haven't deciphered those yet either, but we can compare the 3 letters to try and figure out the code. Naruto stood up from his table and addressed Sai. I know you can do it, Sai. You're the head of the intelligence team after all. Anyway, please send a message to Sasuke, and tell him to be here ASAP. I have a bad feeling about this. Yes, Lord 7th, Sai replied and left the room. Naruto looked at Shikamaru with worry. At that very moment, there was someone in the village connected to Kara and communicating with them. An insider infiltrating Konoha. Night had fallen, and Boruto was leaving his house with Himawari, while Hinata waved from the front door and reminded them to stay safe. Boruto had organized a get-together for the whole group tonight, albeit on short notice, at the burger place that he and his friends loved to eat at, Thunderburger. He looked up at the starry night sky, and as he was walking, He reflected on what had been a couple of very busy weeks. It has been around 3 months since the whole group was last together, and the reason for their lack of regular hangouts was because of the spike in the number of missions lately, which in turn was mainly due to reports of sightings of Kara members all around the ninja world, as well as some reactionaries in several nations trying to instigate unrest. The one goal of those reactionaries was to stop and reverse the progress made in the fields of science, economy, and society, so that they could return their nation to its former glory and greatness, and live the way their forefathers intended, or something like that. Boruto brushed their goal off as complete nonsense. Boruto then reflected on how far his group of friends has come. Back then, there were the original 10 members of their closely bonded group, which were himself, Sarada, Mitsuki, Shikadai, Inojin, Chocho, Iwabe, Denki, Metal Lee, and Sumaire. After the failed Chunin exams and Momoshiki's attack, Wasabi and Namida gradually became closer to the group. In turn, they all embraced them and welcomed them, bringing the group of friends to 12 members. Additionally, ever since she entered into the academy and was studying and training to become a genin, Himawari practically joined up with their group and goes to all their hangouts, and became close with Sarada, Sumaire, and Inojin, particularly with Inojin because of their shared love of art, and their supposed teacher-student relationship in terms of said art. Boruto made a mental note to observe if that was actually how far their relationship goes. And at the moment, Ryogi was currently being integrated into the group as well, at the request of Shikadai. After his release from the Konoha prison 2 years ago, Ryogi had traveled back to his homeland, the Land of Frost, to recover all the belongings of his family that remained in their tent home. Their home was on the remote northern snowy steppes of the Frost Nation, far away from the capital city of Shimo. There wasn't much to bring back at all, just pictures of happier times, and family heirlooms. Before he left to return to Konoha, he also made sure to put a marker on the graves of his parents, so if ever he would return one day, he would know where to pay a visit. Upon his return to Konoha, Ryogi spent months trying to find work to get some money and a place to stay in, but never got a long-term job due to the fact that he was imprisoned. That's when he remembered Shikadai. He turned up at Shikadai's door one day, out of the blue, asking for help. It wasn't Shikadai who answered though, but Tamari instead. Boruto clearly remembered how Tamari thought Ryogi was sketchy, how badly Tamari beat up Ryogi with her fan, and just how lucky Ryogi was when Shikadai and Boruto returned from Thunderburger, just in the nick of time, to save their old redhead friend from further humiliation. Afterwards, Ryogi and Shikadai rekindled their friendship, and once Shikadai vouched for Ryogi, Tamari let him stay and live in their house. The two boys always played shogi together, with Shikamaru joining in his spare time. Shikamaru even praised Ryoji's tactical genius, as he managed to best Shikamaru one time using an unexpected charge. Ryogi did lose to Shikamaru over 70 times, but credit to Ryogi. He did have that one win, which even Shikadai had not even managed to do. Ever since Ryogi and Shikadai became closer, Shikadai brought Ryogi along with him to the group when they hung out together, and so he was slowly becoming part of the group. That's great, Boruto thought as he neared the front door of the restaurant. Ryogi needs the support. Just as he was about to go inside his favorite restaurant, he heard two very familiar voices calling out his name. He turned to where the sound came from. He saw two girls waving at him. "Boruto! Hima-chan!" shouted the one with black hair and wearing a red shirt with black shorts. "Boruto-kun, Hima-chan," said the one with violet hair and wearing a purple dress. Sarada, Sumaire, Boruto and Himawari waited for them to arrive, and they shared a group hug. "How have you been?" asked Himawari. "Sarada and I were having mango and banana graham shakes a few hours ago, when we got Boruto-kun's message about the hangout," Sumaire told her. "Short notice much," remarked Sarada. "We had to rush to make it. I'm so sorry, I suddenly thought about it and today seemed like a good day when everyone should be free," Boruto explained as they entered the building. Everyone else was already there, with the exception of Wasabi and Namida. Boruto wondered for a split second as to where they could be, only to realize the obvious answer. "Sumaire, are Wasabi and Namida on another date?" Sumaire and Sarada both grinned happily. "Yep, we were actually accompanying them a while ago so Namida's parents wouldn't think anything was suspicious," Sarada informed him. "Don't worry Boruto-kun," Sumaire added, "they'll make it here later." Just give them some private time. Come on already guys. I'm starving to death here. Chocho complained and writhed in agony. But you're eating potato chips right now, Denki pointed out, only to receive a death glare from Chocho, which only made everyone else laugh even harder. They joined up the tables so they could all fit. There were already 12 people there: Boruto, Sarada, Mitsuki, Sumair, Shikadai, Ryogi, Inojin, Himawari, Chocho, Denki, Iwabe, Metal Lee, with 2 more to come, so everyone made sure to leave 2 adjacent seats empty for Wasabi and Namita. They all ordered their food, and once they sat back down to eat, they started catching up. The table became very lively as they exchanged stories of missions, theories on Kara and their motives, and personal experiences since the last time they all met up more than 3 months ago. Wasabi and Namita were at the tail end after their romantic dinner date. The 2 lovebirds had spent the day hanging out with Sarada and Sumair, and after those 2 left to prepare for the get-together, they had a picnic on the grassy area along the river. They had Wasabi's favorite, baked salmon, as well as Namita's favorite, banana pie. There, they watched the sunset, the sky turn black, and the stars come out one by one. The night sky is so beautiful, Namita commented as she was lying down on the soft grass. I'm glad we're able to see the stars here along the riverbanks, away from the light pollution of the rest of Konoha. There are so many stars, Wasabi replied. But I only ever notice one out of all of them. Which one? Sirius? Aldebaran? Betelgeuse? Rigel? Polaris? No, not any one of those. The only star I notice, and the one I love to see the most, is you. Namita shivered a bit, partly because of the cold night air, but also because of her Wasabi's loving words. Wasabi noticed her shuddering, and hugged her tight. Namita returned the hug and kissed Wasabi on the cheek as well. After a few more minutes of stargazing and pressing into each other's warm embrace, the 2 girls packed up and started walking to the burger place, Namita leaning her head on Wasabi's shoulder. Namita, I have an idea. To make up for being late, how about we buy some drinks for the group? I'm sure they'll be alright with us being a bit late, Namita replied. They probably know by now that we're on a date. In fact, Chocho is probably gossiping about us already. Yeah, I know, but still, I want to buy drinks for them anyway. Knowing them, they'll probably enjoy it. They'll enjoy alcohol for sure. But remember, I can't get drunk, okay? My parents don't think drinking is a good thing at all, and remember that they're very protective of me. Wasabi sighed. Conservative parents are an absolute pain in the ass, she thought out loud, to which Namita laughed. Especially if their daughter is in a relationship with another girl, Namita added. Wasabi chuckled loudly with that response. It's best that they never know, she winked. Namita continued venting to Wasabi, at least your parents are liberal enough to accept us being together in a relationship. I wish I had parents like yours. Yeah, my parents are like the definition of chill, Wasabi beamed proudly. They just want me to be happy, and if I am happy, then they are too. All parents should be like that, in my opinion. Namita agreed wholeheartedly, and they held hands firmly as they got to the marketplace. People were staring at them as they walked on the sidewalk. A lot were looks of happiness, cuteness, and acceptance, while some others looked at them with disapproval and downright disgust. Namita sighed. Konoha may be modernizing and all, but there are still a lot of people who cling on to their conservative, outright discriminatory beliefs of others. Well, at least there's progress, she thought optimistically. Wasabi knew where to look for the alcohol in the somewhat shady part of the marketplace, and she bought the good quality ones with what money she and Namita had left on them after their date. After they bought the alcohol, Namita got her cell phone out and called Sumair. Hey Sumair. Namita. Sumair replied, with the background noise amplified in such a way that Namita knew immediately that they were on loudspeaker. You and Wasabi are on your way here now? It's 8:45 already. Yeah, we're on our way to Thunderburger right now. We'll be there in about 10 minutes, I think. Wasabi also bought drinks for you guys. Lots of bottles of pale Pilsen and vodka, Wasabi added. You guys bought drinks for us? There are loud cheers in the background, so obviously they're excited for the drinks, Namita says internally. Thanks Wasabi. Shouted voices in the background, the main one clearly being Iwabe. Namita smiled. No problem guys, see you in a few minutes. In the darkness outside the village, out of sight from the guards posted on the walls, 9 shadowy figures converged. One of them spoke up to the others. I expect that you are all ready for this. To cause chaos, havoc, destruction, ruin, suffering, and death upon Konoha and all of the ninja nations. Our crowning achievement is now at hand. The end of the shinobi world as we know it. Jigen, one of the men beside him replied, we all know what we have to do. There's no need to remind us. It's up to our person inside Konoha now. Once he gives us the signal, our assault begins. Jigen smiled. Koji, always blunt and direct to the point. Very well then, all of you, please move to your assigned positions. Be on point. We communicate by our encrypted earpieces so no one can intercept and understand our conversations, understand? Yes. At that, everyone dispersed. Their positions surrounded Konoha's walls on all sides, but with the protective and sensing barriers still up and running, they had to wait for their moment to strike. Back at Naruto's office, Shikamaru was on his cell phone talking to Tamari. He was telling her to stay at home and lock all the doors. Meanwhile, Sai was talking to Ino on video call, saying she should close up her flower shop for the night and take shelter in their home. Both of them told their wives about the suspicious Kara-related threat, and were taking no chances. Naruto was calling his house on the landline phone, and after a few seconds, Hinata picked up. Hello dear, are you coming home early? Hinata, I can't go home right now. There's a threat right now that we're investigating, and it has the potential to be serious. We're all waiting for Sasuke for help. Whatever you do, lock the doors and keep yourself, Boruto and Himawari safe, alright? Honey, I can't do that. Boruto and Himawari are at the burger restaurant with all their friends. They won't be back until past 11:30. In any case, I'm sure they can manage themselves too. You know how strong they all are, and they're even stronger with all of them supporting each other. Naruto smiled. You're right, I have faith in them. But this is related to Kara, you know. I'm just concerned that this threat is real. So just in case, once they come home, stay there and be alert. Yes dear, we will. You stay safe there too. And keep doing your best. I know you got this. I love you. I love you too, Hinata. Good night. A minute after Naruto dropped the call, a black, spiraling portal opened up in the middle of the room. Sasuke stepped through, looking a bit fatigued after spending a lot of chakra to activate his time-space ninjutsu. I got here as fast as I could after receiving Sai's messenger bird. What's the situation? Shikamaru and Sai ended their calls quickly, and set another table in the middle, with a map of Konoha showing the walls, defensive positions, and choke points, along with some identified weak sides and highlighted blind spots. This map is for an assault of the town. It's been updated with the new constructions, excavations, and tunnels built after the Momoshiki attacks, Shikamaru explained. But this is only for an external assault. Naruto continued the explanation. We have reason to believe that Kara has an insider within Konoha, one who is actively committing a plot to cause unrest in our village. I heard you intercepted messages between the Kara members? Yes we did. Sai, how's the work on translation? You mean deciphering it? Sai clarified, looking at the translated and non-translated parts of the missives on his computer. Well, we've only partially decoded them. Only a third of the symbols used have had their true meanings confirmed and identified. Sasuke peeked at the computer and saw the glyph-looking letters. The 3 letters were side by side, and the symbols with identified meanings were listed down on another tab. Sasuke recognized some of the symbols. He was trying to remember where he had seen them before, when he realized he had gotten a field manual of a Kara member he killed weeks ago, after he discovered one of their minor camps. He pulled the small book out from his backpack and opened it with his one hand. On the page were typed the symbols he saw on the computer. The field manual I got from one of their members has the same code used, Sasuke informed the room as he handed the book to Sai and the others. Let's see if this helps with the decoding. Wasabi and Namida arrived at Thunderburger just before 9 o'clock, and after they sat down, they endured some minutes of playful teasing from the others, which Namida laughed off, while Wasabi quickly got annoyed. They joined in the fun conversations and also brought out the drinks. The restaurant, knowing the members of the group well enough to trust them not to break everything in sight, gave them some plastic cups, and those were quickly filled with the beer Wasabi bought. They were drained just as fast. "Mon, this is great stuff," Chocho muttered with some difficulty after having 3 glasses. Amused at his teammate's reaction, Inojin replied, "Wow, I didn't expect you to be a lightweight, Chubbs." On the other extreme, Everyone noticed that Mitsuki kept drinking but didn't seem affected at all, which is probably due to how Orochimaru made him. Inojin and Himawari were exchanging jokes, puns, and theories and philosophies about art, while Shikadai and Ryogi were playing a new board game called Game of the Generals, which was rapidly gaining popularity with it being a modern version of chess and shogi, where the pieces could only be moved on square in any of the four principal directions, and the identities of the pieces being moved by the player were unknown to the opponent. Boruto served as their arbiter, to determine which side won each battle that would take place when two pieces from opposing sides met at the same square. Metal Lee and Iwabe were once again debating on whether Rock Lee or Naruto was the better one in terms of pure taijutsu, with Denki not caring one bit about that conversation. Instead, he was talking to Namida about how groundbreaking Orochimaru's new research into sound style was, to which Namida agreed wholeheartedly. Wasabi listened and held Namida's hand from time to time, while also conversing with Sarada and Sumire over their recent missions, some political happenings all over the ninja world, and their parents. While everyone else was drinking the beer, Sumire stuck with cola. Sarada noticed and asked her, "You're not much of a drinker, are you?" Sumire shook her head. "I don't really drink at all. Still traumatized from my father, 'cause he was one massive drinker. And an abusive, angry drunkard at that." Sarada immediately apologized for not realizing, and Boruto, trying to break the tension, had an idea. "You should try it anyway. We're pretty sure you won't end up like your father. You're a much better person than he'll ever be, I promise you that." Sumire thought about it for a second. "Relax, Sumire. Nothing bad will happen," Sarada assured her. "We'll be here for you, no matter what happens. Remember what we promised you?" Namida added, while Wasabi got her glass and filled it to the brim with the pale Pilsen, a lager beer brewed from pale malt. "Drink it, alright?" Wasabi pushed Sumire's plastic glass towards her. "I swear, this is not that strong. Chocho just gets drunk so easily, so don't use her as a basis for anything." As everyone except for Chocho laughed, Sumire looked at the cup, and then at her friends, especially towards Boruto, Sarada, Wasabi, and Namida, who all nodded in encouragement. She breathed in and out to calm her nerves, and then put the cup to her mouth, more or less gulping down the whole thing in one go. She was taken aback by the mix of sweetness and bitterness of the beer, but was able to handle it. She sighed with relief, and said, "It was all right, I guess," as the room erupted with whistles and cheers with Sumire's first drink. "By the way, Sumire," Boruto asked, "your birthday is coming up quickly, right?" "Yes, Boruto-kun, it's 5 days from now. June 12th. "Oh, that's wonderful," Sarada added in delight. "Are you going to have a birthday party?" "I originally wasn't, to be honest. But lately, I've been thinking about it more, and I guess it would be fun." "It definitely will," Wasabi encouraged her further. "We'll all go," Namida reassured, "if ever you decide to hold the party." Sumire decided in that instant. "Alright, everyone, I'm inviting all of you guys over to my place on June 12th for my birthday." The group cheered as another party and get-together was planned. "Sumire, how old are you now?" Sumire turned to Mitsuki, who had asked her the question. "I'm turning 16 in 5 days, so I guess I'm just a bit older than you guys." "Oh, so it's your sweet 16, Sarada noticed. "I'll be turning 16 next year, March 31st. Sumire smiled. "We should make sure to all be there as well. Anyway, I'll try to enjoy the last 5 days that we'll be the same age for this year." "I feel old," she joked, as everyone laughed. "Namida," Mitsuki pointed out after more drinking, "how about you tell us more about your training with my father in our village?" "Oh yeah," Boruto remembered the events. "You left Konoha 10 months ago, and you were gone for like half a year. You guys came back just before everyone became busy. Why was Team 15 was inactive during that time? What happened then?" Namida downed what remained of her cup first before telling her story to the group. "The 4 of us, myself, Wasabi, Sumire, and Hanabi-sensei. We all agreed to go train more to hone our skills, improve our weaknesses, and accentuate our strengths. Sumire had her job with the scientific ninja weapons team, where she had her short internship 3 years ago as well, to put her researching and technical skills to good use, as well as to improve them. Wasabi was supposed to train under Kiba for animal transformation, while Hanabi-sensei." Namida paused and chuckled. "Well, I guess she spent much more time with Konohamaru-sensei, if you know what I mean." Boruto laughed maliciously. "So that's why they were hanging out a lot more often." I now have blackmail material over him. This comment earned a reprimand from Sarada. You will do no such thing, she told him as she stared at him sternly. You forgot to mention, Namida, that I ended my training with Kiba-sensei very early, Wasabi noted, since he wasn't really interested or skilled in cat transformations. I walked out by the third day. I said that you were supposed to, Namida reasoned. Oh really? Sarada asked as her interest was piqued. Is that why you studied under my mom and Aunt Ino instead? Wasabi nodded. In place of cat transformation training, I wanted to study more medical ninjutsu under Tsunade, but I only ever got to learn for her for like 5 of our daily sessions. I think she had some health issues and personal issues, not to mention that she's pretty old and mostly grumpy nowadays. The majority of those 6 months, I learned under Sakura-sensei and Ino-sensei, who were both very kind and patient with me. You had dinner at my house a lot back then, Sarada added, and even until now, you come along every so often. My mom often says that she's very proud and happy to have a student like you. She told me that you always listen to her attentively, and that you learn very fast. I just hope that I could be even half as good as her, Wasabi admitted. She is a wonderful teacher, and I hope that I don't disappoint her. Also, the food in your house is always nice. Wasabi, you're welcome to come over more, Sarada told her. I'm sure you, me, Mom, and Aunt Ino, always have a lot of things to talk about. Mitsuki carried the discussion with Namida along, as Wasabi and Sarada exchanged fist bumps. Why did you choose to train in my village? Namida looked back at him, smiling as she fondly remembered her stay in Oto. Well, if you guys remember, my strong suit jutsu-wise is sound style, which pretty much nobody in Konoha uses or even knows how to use. 10 months ago, I heard from Mitsuki, Denki, and Sumair, that Mitsuki's father, the legendary Sanin Orochimaru, was doing heavy research into the more obscure types and styles and jutsus. At the time, according to Mitsuki, Orochimaru had just made a huge breakthrough regarding sound style. I read his dissertation about discovering sound style, Denki added. The so-called, 7th Phenon. It was very nicely written, so it was great read. Apparently, the reason why it took so long for anybody to figure out what truly makes sound style possible is because of wrong ideas as to its correct composition, or not having the ability to combine if ever they had the right basic elements. Orochimaru himself focused first on trying to combine wind and fire, though he naturally ended up with the very rare scorch style. He realized that heat isn't the source of vibrating sound waves, but rather only an effect. He continued, it was then he asked himself, what creates sound? It turned out that sound itself isn't made of other elements at all. He discovered that sound waves exist in all types of matter, solids, liquids, gases, even plasma. Therefore, it either has to be made up of all the other elements, or it could be that it is in fact its own element, or phenon, the scientific term for the elements. The former was quickly proven wrong, given that there are sound users not possessing all the 6 other main chakra natures, and because even people like Lord Hokage who can wield all 6 main chakra natures have a hard time with sound style. So he did even more research and experiments, and finally proved experimentally that sound style is its own field. Namida continued her story, when he found out that sound itself was a separate nature and that it could permeate and transcend other natures as mediums, he finally made consistent sound waves. And when I heard that he had both developed new sound jutsus and rediscovered ancient ones, I immediately told Lord Hokage that I wanted to volunteer to be his assistant. I wanted to learn with the best available, and Lord Hokage agreed. The only one available, Wasabi chuckled, then added, it was a great thing that nobody told your parents what Orochimaru used to do with people who volunteered for him. If anyone did, there's no way your parents would have let you go. Namida groaned loudly, before throwing her arms up laughing. They almost didn't let me go anyway. Everyone laughed along, having seen how protective Namida's parents can be. They nearly forced Namida to quit being a kunoichi on more than one occasion, either after seeing how much she exerted herself, or seeing her get hurt on missions. However, her friends always swayed her to keep on, and for that, most of them earned the ire of her parents, especially Wasabi, who actually had a shouting match with Namida's father once. Exactly how much did you learn from my father? Mitsuki probed Namida further. I learned a whole lot more sound style attacks, Namida told the group, and I learned how to better control and modify the ranges and angles of the jutsus I already knew. While he developed most of the new jutsus I know, There are some that we co-developed, and a handful that I made myself during my break times. By the way, Sarada asked Namida, what were you talking about when you said you two rediscovered old sound-style jutsus? In fact, we've been investigating an ancient scroll with 7 verses of sound-style hymns on it. Apparently, the phonic hymns are attacks that have to be sung, in the ancient language no less. Additionally, you have to know the true meaning of each individual verse in your mind and in your heart for it to take effect. I haven't even memorized all the verses yet, only the tune. But I'll keep working on it, so I can show you all how it works. Wow, I'd like to see those, Sarada remarked. It's not often you see a style this rare and groundbreaking. I'd be happy to spar if you'd like, Namida offered, though I suspect that you just want to be able to copy the jutsu and learn it with your Mangekyo Sharingan. Well, Sarada admitted sheepishly, I won't deny that. That is a no then, Namida laughed, at least for now. In the meantime, I'm still trying to master making sound waves and vibrations, as well as varying the strength, frequency, pitch, and angular radiation of my sound waves. So it's like an imperfect art as of this moment. But even now, Sumair pointed out, you're doing very well. Wasabi, Hanabi-sensei, and I have all seen your new techniques in our missions, and we were all so impressed. You obviously have a lot of skill and experience already with your sound style, or at least the basics of them. Sarada grew more excited. Oh come on, now I really want to see her sound style. It was now around 10:30, and while many in the group were more than just tipsy, Chocho was pretty much wasted at this point, with her head down on the table and the occasional incoherent mumbles about being hungry. Himawari was leaning her head on Inojin's shoulder, and Inojin was stroking her hair. Boruto, after staring at them for half a minute, finally registered what was going on, and told Inojin, "Get your hands off my sister, Inojin." Or else what? The blonde and pale ninja replied. You really don't have to worry, Boruto. I always take really good care of your sister. That sounded so wrong in so many ways, Inojin, Ryogi pointed out innocently, and Shikadai burst into laughter. He could tell that comment would trigger Boruto, who isn't exactly known for his patience and anger management. Mitsuki, perplexed and not yet well versed enough with these types of things, asked with a curious smile, what was so wrong about that? What did you say? Boruto furiously asked, after taking a long 15 seconds to digest what he thought Inojin meant, and his loud shout shocked everyone into silence. Are you deaf? Inojin smirked as he looked at Boruto. You heard what I said. Himawari added, Oni-chan, we're not really doing anything wrong. Chill out please? Boruto, tipsy, disoriented, and slow as he was, stood up to confront Inojin. Sarada tried to stop him but was grabbed by Mitsuki's extended arm, which wrapped around her. Don't interfere. Let them sort it out. Boruto was halfway towards Inojin when Sumair stood up. Boruto-kun, Inojin, please stop fighting. Boruto-kun, Inojin and Himawari aren't doing anything wrong, so please calm down. Boruto looked at her with fury for all of 1 second, before his fury died down and was replaced by embarrassment and guilt. Sorry you two. I'm just looking out for you, Hima. Inojin, you better take good care of my sister. And not in the creepy way, you know? I promise, sincerely, I will. Trust me. I just remembered, Denki joined in. Sumair also intervened in Boruto and Inojin's fight back in the academy. Oh yeah, back when she was still class representative. Namida recalled. Wasabi added, it feels like deja vu, seeing her intervene between Boruto and Inojin again. Everyone was having fun reminiscing the fun times in the academy. A lot of fun memories of that time were brought up, ranging from Metal Lee's nervousness, Sumair's attack and return to the school, Sarada's speech to Wasabi and Namida that prevented Namida from quitting her dream of being a kunoichi, Mitsuki in general, all of Boruto's antics, and the graduation exam with Kakashi as their proctor. Boruto, as tipsy as he was, gazed at the faces around the table, and looked back at just how much everyone had changed since their days in the academy, and how much he himself had changed. Boruto remembered the way he was years before, when he was still a stubborn and spoiled brat who only wanted everything in life to be easy. He was only able to mature into the man he was now, with the help of his parents, Himawari, Sarada, Mitsuki, Sumair, Shikadai, Kawaki, and all of his friends. Still, Boruto wondered about just how much he had truly progressed, and where he would be without his family and friends guiding him. After a while, his thoughts then turned to his family. On one hand, Naruto had been incredibly busy, tired, and almost burned out over the responsibilities he's had to handle on a daily basis as the Hokage. But even though it compounded his stress and added to his troubles, he chose to add even more issues to his workload, such as attempting to stem the growing threats of Kara and other extremist groups, and protecting the identities of Mitsuki and Sumire from the knowledge of the general public of Konoha. Boruto understood perfectly why his father was doing the latter, especially after what had happened to Kawaki 6 months ago, when his identity and former ties to Kara were leaked to Konoha. Still, Boruto wished that his dad could learn someday that he can take life easy too, and that he would take some time off from his job so he can enjoy normal life with his family. He deserves it, Boruto told himself, and so do Mom, Himawari, and I. On the other hand, Hinata was living the life of a household mom, raising 2 growing teenagers in her house, and supplying another one in Kawaki, who had moved out of the house to an apartment close by after his identity leak. Still, she did not feel much stress, which was accentuated by her dark purple hair, fair skin, pretty face, and calm and clingy demeanor, which Naruto was still so in love with. There was not a single gray hair on her head yet. In short, she was still the sweet, caring, loving mom that Boruto knew and loved back dearly. Speaking of Kawaki, Boruto worried internally, I wonder how he's doing on his own. His mind flashed back to that day 6 months ago. He relived the moment when he and Kawaki walked out the front door to go to train with teams 7, 5, 10, and 15, in the virtual coliseum that Denki had just made. The moment the 2 brothers in arms stepped out, they were ambushed by a livid mob that had camped outside the house. The crowd hurled both death threats and cursing insults towards Kawaki and his heritage, not to mention stones and bricks that broke the windows and scraped the walls. Luckily, Hinata and Naruto rushed out in time to dispel the mob, but the damage had already been done. The village elders, who only wanted less chaos inside the village, forced Naruto's hand and made Kawaki move out to live his own, ostensibly to preserve the peace, protect the Hokage and his family, and prevent any more brazen attacks on the home of the Hokage himself. In any case, Kawaki was given his own apartment unit 5 streets away. Initially, Boruto, along with his sister and both of his parents, would visit and check up on Kawaki every week. But as time passed, the visits to his apartment became sparse, especially 3 months ago when the weight of their workload dramatically shot upwards. As missions and inquiries began to pile up one after the other, it became Kawaki who would visit the Uzumaki house once a week. He seems to be doing fine on his own 2 feet, Boruto concluded. Still, I should probably visit him at his apartment soon. We should have gotten together today, but when we invited him to come along, he said he wasn't available tonight. Shaking his head and pushing those thoughts to the back of his mind, Boruto now looked at the people around him on the table, and his focus drifted to Himawari and Inojin, who were sitting beside each other across the table from Boruto. The 2 artists have recently begun to rent their own art studio now, roughly 6 blocks away from both the Uzumaki house and the Yamanaka house. Inojin stays in the studio during his spare time away from his missions, while Himawari uses it for around 2 to 3 hours every day after her school dismissal at 3:30 p.m. Even though the 2 of them are both very capable artists in their own rights, they paint with contrasting styles. Formerly of the style of realism, Inojin was now an impressionist who cared less for how accurate his paintings were. He focused his efforts on the semblances of movement and the effects of sunlight on the fleeting scenes in his works. On the other hand, Himawari was an expressionist, although she would also dabble in cubism as well from time to time. Her one and only concern was how much her paintings evoked emotions and moods in those who saw her artworks. Art aside, the 2 were growing up to be skilled ninja as well. Inojin had all but mastered the super beast drawing jutsu, while also having a limited capacity to pull off the mind-reading and mind-transfer jutsus of his mother's clan. And Himawari was still in the process of learning how to use her Byakugan and the jutsus associated with it, such as the twin lion fists and the 8 trigrams 64 palms that Hinata and the rest of the Hyuga clan were famous for. Boruto's eyes wandered next to the raven-haired Kunoichi who sat in next to him and Mitsuki. Sarada was currently in a conversation with the other girls, minus Chocho, who was in the process of passing out in front of everyone. In Boruto's eyes, she had grown to be more responsible, passionate, and capable of leadership, Not to mention the obvious fact that she had also become more attractive. Aside from their missions together, Sarada had also been studying and training further under Naruto, as preparation for Sarada to become a Hokage in the future. Her goal of becoming the future Hokage had piqued her interest in preserving the traditions, customs, and the status quo of Konoha and the Land of Fire. Sarada had also become much more powerful, and has more control over her chakra and her two Sharingan eyes, although she still lacks chakra for the longer and endurance-based battles. While Sarada trained and studied with Boruto's father, Naruto, along with his close advisor Shikamaru, Boruto kept training with Sarada's dad, and his master, Sasuke. Sasuke promised Boruto that he would eventually bring him on a long trip around the continent, and maybe even across the oceans to the other continents, to open his eyes to the world around him, and show him the social realities that he can help make better in the future. Boruto grinned as he also remembered his master promising to teach him more jutsus, sword mechanics, and sword fighting techniques along the way. I can't wait for our trip. It's going to be so much fun, I'm sure of it. Beside Sarada sat Mitsuki, who was keenly observing the reunion going on around him. Mitsuki still has a lot to learn, Boruto told himself while chuckling slightly, when it comes to comprehending what it truly means to become more human. But credit to him, he's getting there, slowly but surely. Boruto knew that his pale friend now understood that sometimes, there is more to what is said and done than initially meets the ear and eye. This development amazed his father and creator, Orochimaru, as well as his brother Log, both of whom secretly come over and visit Mitsuki's apartment from time to check up on him. As Boruto downed his glass of beer and refilled it, his blue eyes made contact with Sumire's own purple orbs, which were focused directly and intensely on him. After a few seconds of seemingly losing herself in her deep thoughts, Sumire noticed that Boruto was actually looking at her as well. Blushing slightly, Sumire then looked away from Boruto and quickly pretended that she was part of the ongoing conversation with Wasabi and Namida, who were sitting beside her, and with Denki, Iwabe, Metal, who were on the other side of the table. Since his memory had been refreshed when Sumire, Wasabi, and Namida all talked about it just an hour ago, Boruto remembered the time when Team 15 was inactive for a few months, as the three kunoichi had gone to train with senseis or companies of their own choice to further improve their skills. Sumire had chosen to work with Katasuke as a scientist and researcher to uncover the lost secrets her father had known and kept from her about her, their links, and their combined powers and abilities. During that period, she kept living in her apartment in Konoha, and she commuted to Ryutan by the lightning rail of Kaminariman Company, a 45-minute-long trip one way. She would work in Katasuke's lab from 7 a.m. until 4 p.m., and then return to Konoha by the same rail at the end of the day. Boruto recalled that Sumire had joined Katasuke's company on a rather high-paying rookie scientist contract, which lasted 6 months, and which also gave her 3 off days a week. Katasuke was kind to her, as she had also worked at before on her internship, and was one of his premier assistant scientists during her time there. It was during that internship of hers almost 3 years ago when Team 7 bumped into her at Katasuke's company headquarters in Ryutan, while on their mission to investigate a crashed blimp, the very same mission where they ended up meeting Kawaki and taking him in. Meanwhile, Denki had resumed the conversation with Namida, Sumire, and Mitsuki regarding Orochimaru's breakthroughs on the 7th phenon, sound, and the resulting sound style. Listening in on their conversation were Wasabi, Iwabe, Inojin, and Himawari. Boruto himself was not particularly well versed with the topics Denki was explaining to the others, but he somewhat understood it due to Denki being so effortlessly able to explain it well and simplify it, without letting the key concepts lost in the simplification. It is because of this ability that Boruto felt sure that Denki would make a great professor in Konoha Academy, whether it be in the advanced mathematics courses like calculus, or the sciences like chemistry, physics, and technology. However, when he asked Denki about it, the scion of the Kaminariman corporate empire shrugged it off, since he was determined to become a shinobi just like Boruto. Funnily enough, Denki also pointed out that Iwabe could also be a professor for both structural engineering courses and cuisine subjects, 2 subjects that did not exactly have much in common, if anything at all. Sandwiched between Team 5, Team 15, and Inojin and Himawari, Chocho sat gazing in the distance in a drunken and dazed stupor, as if she had a 1,000-mile stare. It was looking more and more likely that she was going to pass out or fall asleep on the table again, just like she was before the one-sided shouting match between Boruto and Inojin began. To Boruto, she was still her confident, all-devouring self, although nowadays she preferred her natural chubby physique, and she did not even bother to look thin anymore due to her self-confidence. She was still the best of friends with Sarada and Sumair, and had gotten closer with Wasabi and Namida as well, so much so that whenever they would go out on a date, Chocho would always volunteer herself, Sarada, and Sumair to come along. Wasabi and Namida would never mind anyway, as it was much more convincing to Namida's ultra-conservative parents to let their daughter go on a girls' night out with her closest friends rather than a secret date. As Boruto's eyes came full circle around the table, he caught sight of Shikadai sitting beside Ryogi and Himawari. Lately, his best friend has been buying and playing more video games, and Boruto and Denki, and sometimes Mitsuki, would come over at least once a week to play with him on the console Tamari had bought for him on his last birthday. Aside from their favorite role-playing video games, Shikadai would regularly bring out his strategic board games, the old-timey shogi and the modern-day favorite game of the generals, so that he, Boruto, Denki, and Ryogi would take turns playing, and with the latter game, arbitrating or refereeing. It is through those games that both Shikadai and Ryogi have begun to become more competent military thinkers, like Shikamaru and the other members of the Nara clan, even from generations past. He had also recently begun dueling with his father and with Ryogi in simulated war games, which had been developed by the Kaminarimon Company, although he would most often come out on the losing end against his father and Ryogi, who at this point was pretty much his adopted brother. Sometimes, Yodo would come over, hang out with the three boys, and join in the games from time to time. Boruto already knew that Shikadai was in a budding relationship with Yodo, but to what extent that relationship already was he did not know for sure. All of a sudden, a mischievous idea formed inside Boruto's head. "Sarada," Boruto whispered silently in her ear, "can you put Shikadai under genjutsu?" Sarada balked at the suggestion. "And why would I do that? I have an idea. Don't worry, he won't get hurt or anything. Just tell me what it's going to be about. I'm going to ask Ryogi some personal questions about Shikadai and, well, you know who." Sarada filled in the remaining information on her own. She thought about it and smiled. She wasn't exactly used to mischief, but as she told herself in her head, to hell with it. We should enjoy our teenage years while we still can. "Fine," she replied to Boruto. "I'll do it." Shikadai, Sarada called his attention. As he looked at her, she activated her Mangekyo Sharingan and put him under genjutsu. "Sarada-chan," Sumair reacted. "What are you doing?" "Ask Boruto," Sarada replied. "Or just look at what he'll do." Ryogi, Boruto turned to him with a huge smile on his face. "Do you and Shikadai still sleep in the same room?" Ryogi tilted his head, confused. "No, we don't. I moved into my own room months ago. Don't you remember? You went inside and said it was so cold, you almost froze?" Boruto smiled. Ryogi was walking into his trap. "Oh yeah, now I remember. It's right beside Shikadai's room, right?" "Yup. Alright. Moving on from that. How are Shikadai and Yodo?" Ryogi looked around. Everyone was now looking at him, listening intently. Well, everyone except Shikadai, who looked like he was hugging himself. "Alright, I'll tell you," Ryogi told them, as he sighed and gave up. "The two of them are." Ryogi struggled to put it into words, sort of together, I guess. "They're not boyfriend and girlfriend just yet, but they should probably be soon." Everyone giggled and quietly cheered, as Boruto continued the interrogation of sorts. "And Yodo goes to your house often, right? You could say that. I mean, she comes every weekend, while the fifth case, who's Shikadai's Uncle Gaara, as well as Uncle Kankuro, come visit every 2 months or so. Where does Yodo stay when she's there?" Ryogi began to laugh. He knew it would come to this. He mentally apologized to Shikadai, and he made a mental note to just make the excuse later on that he was threatened and pressured by everyone into doing so. "Yodo stays in Shikadai's room all the time. At least, whenever Tamari isn't there. Shikamaru knows about the two of them, but he lets them deal with their own things. What about you? What's your opinion of them?" "Honestly, I think the two of them are very cute together. Lots of chemistry, and to me, it's obvious they're falling deeper and deeper in love for each other." "Ah," everyone reacted as they looked to move closer to him. Boruto's smirk grew wider, and he unleashed his trump card. Do you happen to hear anything from their room while the two of them are there? Hawawawa, Boruto-kun. Sumair objected animatedly, you don't need to ask that. Let him answer the question, Sumair, Mitsuki told her. Sumair looked at him aghast. Remembering that Mitsuki knew absolutely no social norms, and realizing that it was a lost cause, she sighed and decided to listen in as well. Ryogi laughed a little, and then decided to drop some hints and breadcrumbs instead of saying it outright. That way, his friends could let their imaginations run even wilder than if he simply told them what he knew. Yes, I heard them say each other's names a lot in a lewd way, and there are a lot of thuds and loud moans. At that, Namida and Wasabi giggled and heavily blushed, and everyone else squealed out in loud guffaws as they looked at Shikadai. Everyone now noticed Shikadai was hugging himself and moaning Yodo's name softly and tenderly. Sarada? Sumair asked her with curiosity, what exactly did you do to Shikadai? Sarada smiled as she pushed two of her fingers to adjust her glasses. I put him under a genjutsu which showed him and let him interact with whatever he desires and loves most. Shikadai pulled his head back and put his hand into his pants. Everyone around him, including Chocho, Inojin, and Himawari, gasped and moved away immediately, and Inojin covered Himawari's eyes, though she peeked over anyway. That's great and all, Sumair told Sarada, but can you please lift the genjutsu now? Sarada, Boruto added, you can stop now. We might all get reported for public indecency, you know? If he removes his clothes, Mitsuki replied, I'll cover him up. It'll be easy for me. The group laughed and groaned as Mitsuki once again failed to display any understanding of social norms. After taking in the scandalous scene for a few more seconds, Sarada lifted her genjutsu on Shikadai. My head, Shikadai groaned as he unconsciously removed his hand from his crotch and held his aching head. What happened? Where's Yodo? And, what smells? The entire group looked at him and tried their best not to laugh. They failed, and their cheeks turned red from blushing from the alcohol, the smiling, and the laughing. I'm sorry, Shikadai, Ryogi sputtered within giggles. They made me tell everything about you and Yodo. Shikadai took a moment to think, and then realized what everyone had been laughing about. Fuck you guys, you think this is funny? Sarada, why did you even listen to Boruto? Because even I thought it was a funny prank, Sarada replied as she smirked at him. The two of them glared at each other, the electricity and tension palpable in the air. Boruto looked at his phone to check the time. It was 10:50, just minutes before the end of the get-together. Sumair stood up once again to intervene and stop a fight from happening. Shikadai, Sarada, please don't fight. Suddenly, Sumair blacked out, collapsed onto her chair, and dropped her paper cup on the floor. Are you okay? Sarada asked her. Don't tell me you're a lightweight too. But Sumair gave no response. Her eyes were glazed over, not even acknowledging that she heard anything Sarada just asked. Boruto also got worried and went over to Sumair. He put his hand on her forehead, asking her, Hey Sumair? What's wrong? As people started to worry and gather around her, she stared blankly into space, mouth slightly open, no breathing, and her hand slightly shaking. Sumair dear, can you hear me? Sumair woke up lying face down to a once familiar sight, one where she used to be all the time. It was a dark place with some trees, vines, stumps, stony ground, and water flowing on some streams. It was the news dimension, or so it seemed like it. And standing on top of a great stump stood Nu, who was as big as he was the last time she was in this place, back when Boruto, and to a degree Mitsuki, saved her from the suicide mission her father ordered her to fulfill. Nu, I haven't heard your real voice in so long, Sumair exclaimed as she got onto the stump and gave Nu a long, tight hug. After she pulled away, she looked around, still puzzled. Why is this place still here? I thought the dimension collapsed after the Gozu to Nu was broken. This isn't the same. That physical dimension indeed crumbled and failed. However, as our link persevered and lived on, due to the love and care you showed me over the years and even until now. As the link between us survived, this place, which we called our home years ago, where you would hide from the memories of your father, where you took care of me and kept me in safely also lives on, inside you. In fact, I can reform my dimension, but I only will if you command me to, and I guarantee you that it won't need the Gozu to Nu or any dark chakra this time. Sumair was torn. She was still very much traumatized by her childhood, by her father's physical, emotional, and mental abuse, by him indoctrinating her into hating Konoha and all its citizens, into become a child soldier, and becoming a child suicide bomber at that. What father would put their children through such things? On the other hand, this place did hold memories for her, both good and bad ones. The bad ones mainly consisted of the times she drained people of their chakra and left them nearly dead. The good ones, on the other hand, were those of her taking care of Nu, feeding him actual food from her dimension, giving it baths with some of her water-style jutsus, making a makeshift shelter to give her a place to sleep sometimes, and of course, her battles against Boruto and Mitsuki, where Boruto finally broke her father's influence over her. Until now, she remains very grateful to Boruto for showing her another path to follow, another ninja way to live. "I've missed this place quite a lot," Sumire said as she sat down at the edge of the stump, with Nu approaching her and lying down. "I never thought I would be able to see it again. So, this is where you stay when I'm summoning you?" "Yes, Sumire dear. Our link surviving means you could still summon me, and actually use my abilities if you wanted to. But you already know that, don't you? You still summon me quite a lot." "Yes, and they're very useful. The dark chakra snake, chakra drain, and the huge gas tank of chakra you provide for me both come in handy." Nu interrupted, "You know I do have more abilities than that, right?" "Yes, the ability to drain chakra, to absorb it from others and from the surroundings. I can also output it to others who need it, amplify your attacks by increasing the amount of chakra used, even use wood style with my Hashirama cells." "Do any of those ring a bell?" Sumire looked at Nu with wide eyes. Even she had no idea Nu could do all those things. Looking back at her father's harsh training, it only involved using her own strengths and abilities, never of Nu's, who was implanted into her on the same day as her father's death. And considering her father never gave her even a manual of Nu's powers, only telling her that Nu is a bomb that needs chakra to blow up Konoha, she wouldn't have known anyway. "It seems you're not aware about the abilities I grant you. Though I guess it's partly my fault for not really teaching you about them." "I'm sorry. It's completely fine, Nu. Now that I know more of our abilities, we can practice regularly so that I can gain experience with them. We'll have lots of time to improve and train. We can even bring in Wasabi and Namita to join us, so we can all improve. That's what I wanted to talk to you about. We don't exactly have time for that right now. Listen carefully to me. At this very moment, Kara is moving to destroy Konoha. I can sense their movement, they're full of negative chakra and ill will towards us." Sumire stood up, shocked. "What do you mean? How do you know this?" At that, the place started rumbling and shaking violently. Sumire almost fell down the stump but caught onto the ledge and lifted herself back up. The tremor continued for a while before stopping abruptly. "What was that? Was that the attack starting?" "Not really," Nu replied with laughter. "That was Boruto shaking you. They all seemed concerned for you, as you appeared to be either dead or asleep with your eyes open. Anyway, I'll make this quick. Keep yourself and your friends safe, and stay away from the marketplace. Help Lord 7th, Sasuke Uchiha, Boruto, Sarada, Mitsuki, and everyone else as much as you can, and use my powers." "Why? What's happening?" "Wa," Sumire asked Nu just as Nu activated a portal under Sumire, sending her back to the real world. "Boruto, what are you doing?" Sarada asked, pulling Boruto away from Sumire and checking her for herself. "Sumire, are you there?" "Ah." Sumire suddenly regained consciousness and started breathing rapidly and deeply, trying to calm down. It felt like she was falling for a minute. "Sumire," Boruto exclaimed, worried sick. "What happened to you?" Sarada felt her forehead and checked her pupils. "You didn't happen to have a seizure, did you? Your hand was shaking, you weren't breathing, and you didn't even notice what was happening around you and what we're saying to you." Sumire managed to calm down and was processing everything, not only the information that Nu had given her, but also what's happening around her in the real world. "Guys, how long was I like that?" Sumire asked. Boruto got a glass of water and gave it for her to drink. "About a full minute? What?" Sumire was perplexed. Her meeting with Nu felt like it lasted more than half an hour. She drank the glass of water in one go. Wasabi rubbed her shoulders and neck, and gave her a heart massage. "We were wondering if you needed CPR, Namita told her, or a splash of cold water. But looks like you're A-okay. What happened though?" Wasabi reminded her, "Sumire, if you have seizures, you should take some medicine to prevent it, you know? We don't want you collapsing out of nowhere or anything like that." No, I don't have seizures, Wasabi. This wasn't like that. What happened was, new and I had a meeting inside my mind or heart, I'm not quite sure yet. In any case, he warned me of something horrible happening. What is it? What's going to happen? Boruto asked, while the group listened intently, except for Mitsuki, who looked to be having a conversation with a snake. There's a plot to destroy Konoha. It's happening right now. The group didn't know what to say. Suddenly, Shikadai broke the silence, laughing a bit nervously. Sumair, I think you're even more drunk than Chocho here. Even if there was a plot to attack Konoha, the Hokage and our parents would be able to handle it. Sumair looked down. Did she dream it all up? To be perfectly honest, she herself wasn't sure if it was the alcohol or if it really did happen. But then, Boruto groaned in pain and covered his scarred right eye, and everyone's attention was on him this time. Sarada looked concerned and guided Boruto down on a chair, while Sumair got his hand off his eye to take a look. Boruto, Sumair informed him, it's your special eye. The one that can sense negative chakra. Sure enough, Boruto's Jogan had activated, and Boruto could sense negative chakra, though he couldn't pinpoint it nor see well anyway due to his tipsy condition. But what he could determine was that there were indeed people with negative chakra around. She's right. There are people with dark chakra and evil intentions around. I can sense them, but I can't pinpoint where they are. I think I'm too drunk for that. After his conversation with the messenger snake, Mitsuki all but confirmed what Sumair said. My father just spoke to me. There is indeed a plot by Kara to devastate Konoha and destroy its people. He will relay this information to Lord Seventh and Sasuke Uchiha, who is with him right now. Dad! Exclaimed Sarada, who was growing anxious with all the developments. I hope they resolve the situation before it gets out of hand. Sumair thought about what she could do. Then she remembered she used to message Naruto from when she was spying on Katasuke for him. Back when she was an intern assistant in the Advanced Technology Research Institute in Ryutan. I'll also send Lord Seventh what we know. Looking at the manual, Shikamaru analyzed the messages and how it's used each time. I'm thinking this symbol has something to do with ambition or goal in life. What do you guys think? Sasuke took a look at the symbol to see if it made any sense. It seems to make more sense if it was ninja way. Sai thought about it and concurred. It's ninja way. It makes more sense, and it fits better with the meanings of the other symbols used in conjunction with it. Yes, Shikamaru said, and so this symbol must be end. End the ninja way is their main objective, if what Sasuke read and decoded from the field manual is correct. Sai entered the meaning into the other tab, then pushed away from the computer. Let's take a 2-minute break. My head's spinning. Agreed, Shikamaru replied. We've been at this for hours and I'm having a headache because of it. It's such a drag, having to decode these. Naruto, Sasuke told him while taking a quick breather, we're almost done decoding the 3 messages and the field manual. There are only 6 symbols unidentified, though the overall message still remains unclear. Good work you guys. Keep it up. Naruto encouraged them. I'm monitoring the ground situation, and coordinating with the current patrols to see if they or anyone spot anything suspicious. Guys, let's get back to work. Sai tells them as Shikamaru and Sasuke get back from their short water and mental break. These 2 symbols are used in another letter. It's used in conjunction with the 9-tailed beasts, as well as, quote-unquote, the new variable-tailed beast, linked to lavender, as they say here. Wait, what? A confused Shikamaru interrupted. There's a variable-tailed beast? So a tailed beast that can have as many tails as it wants? And what does it mean when it says the beast is connected to lavender? Sasuke looked at Naruto and Sai, and replied, I do believe we know who this belongs to. Sai thought about it for a second before realizing what they referred to. Oh, I get it. It's not exactly lavender, but it's more of violet. Sumair Kake and knew. So this symbol is for beasts, and this one means, how about, unleash? So used together, it means, unleash the beasts? Well, Sasuke concurred, that could be one of their goals. It's one they could have inherited from the Akatsuki. Sai noted the deduced meanings in the other tab, and then he updated the decoded messages. There were only 3 symbols left to decipher. Alright, Naruto said, 3 more symbols, all of which are used in this last sentence. Sai reads the partly deciphered sentence. Set the blank to trigger blank at the very blank, and at once our mission begins. Can I see that second symbol again? Sasuke wondered where he had seen that symbol before. He looked back at the very first intercepted missive. Using his Mangekyo Sharingan to easily look for the symbol, he found where it was used. The message read, "Your idol said, Artisan Blast. Do us, and him, proud." Sasuke's eyes grew wide. The second symbol is explosion or blast. Sasuke quickly let the others know. It's a quote from Deidara. Art is an explosion. I know because I battled him before. Sai grew worried as he inputted the meaning into the tab. 2 to go, though I already hate where this is going. Naruto was looking on concerned when the phone rang. Hello, Orochimaru? We're kinda preoccupied, what is it? Naruto grew silent and kept listening over the phone, as he got a pen and paper, jotting down everything Orochimaru told him. After looking at him for a while, Sai, Shikamaru, and Sasuke all turned back to the computer. Am I the only one who thinks the first symbol stands for bomb? Sai nervously gulped while asking. Nope, Sasuke replied. I'm afraid it is. Shikamaru, trying to make sense of it all, reads it again. Now, set the bomb to trigger explosion at the very. Shikamaru realizes what the symbol means. The last symbol has to be center. No other place can be targeted to cause as much damage and casualties as there. Orochimaru, thank you so much. Yes, I'll evacuate it immediately. And yes, I'll keep Mitsuki safe. Goodbye. Naruto got off the phone and addressed the others. Everyone, we need to evacuate the marketplace at the center of the city, now. That's where Kara is targeting. Shikamaru sighed. Yeah, we just finished decoding and ended up with the same conclusion. Sai stood up, walked over to the public address system, and activated it. People of Konoha, this is Sai Yamanaka. By order of Lord 7th, please return home immediately, and please evacuate the marketplace at the center of the city. To those outside it, steer clear and return to your homes as soon as possible too. There is a bomb threat. I repeat, there is a bomb threat. Kawaki looked at the hanging clock in the living room of his dark apartment, which read back a time of 10:40 p.m. to the teenage shinobi. He looked back at the last 2 coded messages he had received from Kara. That should be enough, then. He then sealed the lid on the big barrel bomb in front of him. It was a blue plastic barrel that he had filled to the brim in the prior days with a noxious, easily flammable, and highly explosive mixture of ammonium and nitromethane. Then, he attached a trigger mechanism, a clock-based firebomb, on the side of the blue barrel, and he entered into the countdown timer the time of exactly 12 midnight. This firebomb had more than enough punch to tear through the walls of the plastic barrel, so as to spill and ignite its explosive contents. And in the highly unlikely event that it was not enough to break the barrel, Kawaki had made sure to place the barrel and the triggering firebomb beside the LPG tanks of his kitchen stove. For sure, the LPG tanks would be lit up and exploded, and so this was the failsafe for Kawaki's apartment bomb. Shortly afterwards, he zipped his bag closed and slung one strap over his shoulder, while making sure that a certain scroll was in his pocket. Keep track of time, Kawaki reminded himself as he closed and locked his front door, before walking down the 8 flights of stairs from his apartment to ground level. He then went in the direction of the marketplace, towards the heart of the city of Konoha. As he strolled down the dark street, he pulled out his phone and tapped on his notes. He scanned the targets for bombing that he had listed down over the past days and weeks. For one, destroying his apartment building was, to him, a sign of revenge against what he viewed as an oppressive, outdated, and hateful society. But his apartment would not be the first target attacked. According to the final plan, the marketplace would be bombed first, since this was the agreed-upon signal for Kara to launch their assault on the city. Aside from the marketplace and his own apartment, he had also planned to bomb the houses of the Konoha elders he hated so much. He wanted to personally confirm their deaths, as they had caused him much pain and misery by forcibly separating him from the kind Uzumaki family that had taken him in. The Kaminarimon Communications Towers, right beside the main Kaminarimon Company skyscraper, was next on his target list. Destroying the comms towers would effectively cut off most communication with the outside world, and that will leave Kara's attack on Konoha unimpeded by outside intervention. The last 2 targets for bombing and sabotage were the Konoha Academy, specifically the chemistry wing that was vulnerable to gas fires and explosions, and the Hokage mansion itself. For these targets, he placed his remaining bombs, the ones not already in his bag are already activated in his apartment, into a storage scroll. His plan once he reached a target was to first hide in the dark, pull out 1 or 2 bombs from the storage scroll, and input an appropriate time on the countdown timers, before placing it at the target. Kawaki also desired to demolish the Hokage Rock, and the 7 stone faces that provided Konoha with inspiration and hope. However, he was not able to make enough bombs in time, so he instead decided then to use his karma seal to obliterate the Hokage's rock faces. The marketplace was still quite filled with a lot of people when Kawaki arrived. It was a Friday after all, so lots of people were eating out and celebrating the end of another work-filled week. He looked at his watch. 10:49. Still on track, he thought, as he looked for a good restaurant to settle in. He saw a rather popular one that served okonomiyaki cooked in front of the customers. He thought about it, and went inside. "Welcome to Dotonbori," the attendant waitress greeted him as she led him to a vacant table. As he was settling into his table, he observed his surroundings. There were still a lot of people here around me, and a lot as well in the surrounding areas. He then looked at his menu. "I'll have the modern okonomiyaki mix," he told the waitress. "With extra squid please." "Thanks." "All right," the waitress told him. "Anything else?" Iced tea would be great as well, and some gyoza dumplings on the side." "Iced tea and gyoza. Got it. Oh, and where's the bathroom here?" "The bathroom is at the end of the hallway," the waitress told him, pointing in the general direction. "All right. Thank you very much," Kawaki said as the waitress made her leave. He looked at his watch again. It had just turned 10:54 p.m. He went to the bathroom, clutching his bag. As he went in, he made sure no one else was inside it, before locking his stall. He opened his bag again. He examined once more the large container filled with ammonium, nitromethane, and an explosive cap connected to a timer. A fiery, explosive, high blast radius bomb, as big as his backpack allowed him to carry. He held the timer in his hands, about to set the countdown. He thought about what had driven him to this point. He thought he was free from Kara, from the utter abuse they perpetrated on him. He was rescued by Boruto, Sarada, and Mitsuki, who then brought him back to the ninja research lab for initial treatment from Sumire and Akita, then to Konoha itself for further treatment from Sakura, Ino, and Tsunade. When Naruto, the Lord Hokage himself, brought him under his wing and let him move in with his family, Kawaki thought he had turned over a new leaf, that he would finally be able to start again and live a new life, free from the sadness and pain he had experienced as a child and as a teenager growing up with 2 different abusive fathers. At least, not as much as he had experienced up to that point. But it wasn't to be. 6 months ago, he was revealed as a former member of Kara by an anonymous online source. At the time, Kara had already grown enough to be noticed by all the ninja nations and to be feared by their people. Worse, the leak described him as an inner of Kara, one of the elite, important, high-ranking members of the organization. People actually ambushed him and Boruto outside their shared home, and then started shunning him, throwing rocks at him, straight up assaulting him, and threatening to burn him and the Uzumaki house down. After he was forced by the village elders to move out of the Uzumaki home to his own apartment, the hate and abuse shown towards him only grew worse. He reported those people and those actions against him to the police, but they didn't do much to help. They too were suspicious of him as a former high-ranking Kara member. While the abuse piled up and got worse and worse and worse, Kara re-established contact with him 3 months ago. Specifically, his adoptive father Jigen offered to forgive his defection by ordaining him as a mole within Konoha. Kawaki, having had enough of the hate and discrimination against him, had let his rage, anger, and hatred build up inside him against Konoha, its people, and towards the ninja who protected those worthless people, and when it came to a boiling point, he accepted Jigen's offer of amnesty in exchange for betraying Konoha. It was 2 months ago when Kara told him of their plan, and that it needed a diversion inside Konoha itself. In fact, it was Kawaki himself who suggested bombing the crowded city center, as he was out for blood against the people who showed no kindness nor mercy nor compassion towards him. Kara accepted his suggestion, and they left it up to him to research for bomb composition and triggers. Since he was not very familiar with the specifics of making bombs, Kawaki approached the 7th Hokage, his other adoptive father, 2 months ago and asked for a job as a science teacher, using their close relationship and Naruto's empathy to his advantage. More specifically, he requested a job at the Konoha Academy Chemistry Department, ostensibly so that he could begin to stand on his own 2 feet, and also so that he could begin to show the people of Konoha that he was not the evil threat they thought he was. Naruto Uzumaki, perhaps the kindest, most loving, and most empathetic person in the history of the entire world, immediately agreed to help. He even pulled a lot of strings within the academy to get Kawaki his way, and in the end, Naruto was able to give Kawaki a post in the Konoha Academy Chemistry Department as an assistant professor and lab technician, with a great starting salary as well. Using his newfound positions as lab technician and professor, Kawaki learned the necessary chemical reactions for combustion and explosions to occur, and he was also able to procure the needed materials, ammonium, nitromethane, and timer fuses, all separately bought from agricultural stalls, chemical product stores, and clock shops. He did not attract any unwanted attention either, as he explained that these materials were essential for his students' many chemistry experiments at Konoha Academy. After 3 months of spying and plotting, he thought with excitement, he would finally have his revenge on his damned city and its horrible, discriminatory, judgmental people. And now here he was, looking at his watch again, this time with the bomb's timer in the palm of his other hand. 10:57 p.m. He finally entered the countdown of 7 minutes into the timer, carefully placed it back in the bag, and lastly made sure that all of the wiring and sealing was properly done, before he zipped the bag shut. No jutsus of any kind, he reminded himself. We're using the power of science to end the ninja after all, so using jutsus of any kind would actually run counter to their goal, at least symbolically. He walked out of the bathroom, back to his table, just as his server brought him his iced tea and gyoza, and started cooking the okonomiyaki in front of him. He put his bag down on the floor, right below the gas and stove. He calmly drank his iced tea and ate 4 out of 6 pieces of gyoza, all while waiting for the right time to leave. He looked at his watch again. 10:58 p.m. He was thinking about leaving or staying another 30 seconds, when out of nowhere, Konoha's public address system screeched to life. People of Konoha, this is Sai Yamanaka. By order of Lord 7th, please return home immediately, and please evacuate the marketplace. Steer clear from it. There is a bomb threat. I repeat, there is a bomb threat. Immediately, some people gasped, then left and rushed outside, while others slowly rose and complied with the evacuation order. Still, many citizens seemed to ignore the evacuation order, either dismissing it outright or delaying to finish their food, drinks, and hangouts. The server sighed and shrugged. Sorry, we had to go. Come back another time. I'll give you part of your money back as well. The server closed the stove and walked back to the staff's quarters to get his belongings. As he was alone, Kawaki wondered if he should go ahead and continue the attack. Somehow, the authorities have found out about the bombs, so they must have intercepted some of the communication between him and Kara. It would only be a matter of time before they figure out who the insider of Kara in Konoha was. Because of this, Kawaki decided to go ahead with the plot, and got up from his seat without his bag. He ate another piece of gyoza and finished up his iced tea as he looked at his watch once more. 10:59, so that meant 5 minutes more, he thought to himself internally. The PA message from Sai was still repeating, as if it was being played on loop. By now, it just finished its second iteration, before starting the third one a few seconds later. His server emerged from the staff room with her own bag and gave him back the money for the cancelled okonomiyaki. Kawaki stood up, grabbed the last piece of gyoza and quickly dipped it into the sauce before eating it, and they left the restaurant. As they exited, Kawaki saw a thronging mass of people moving out from the marketplace. Still, there are also quite a lot of people not yet evacuating, still finishing their food or not really caring about the announcement, dismissing it as nothing more than a prank or an empty threat. Kawaki started running as he saw that he only had about 2 minutes left before the timer would run out. How is the evacuation going? Naruto asked Shikamaru and Sasuke, as Sai continued to operate the PA system. Looks like a lot of people are leaving the marketplace area. Sasuke replied as he observed the situation from the balcony. Shikamaru looked on as well. Still, a lot of people aren't heeding the warning. They probably think it's either a drill or an empty threat. Here goes the 4th time. Damn it, I hope they take this seriously, Sai groaned, before repeating the message again and emphasizing that this was not just a drill. Naruto's personal laptop sounded just before the fifth repetition of the warning was being made. He looked at it. It was a message from Sumair. He remembered her service to him with regards to spying on Katasuke for him, monitoring what he discovered and what he leaked out to Kara, and for making sure he didn't do anything too stupid. He opened the message. Warning from Nu about plot to attack, destroy Konoha. Avoid city center. Boruto, Sarada, Hima, rest of our group are here at Thunderburger. Boruto's eye is active. Mitsuki is communicating with Orochimaru. We're ready to assist, hold out, whatever needs to be done. Shikamaru, Naruto informed his most trusted advisor, our children are safe. Boruto, Shikadai, Sarada, and everyone else, they're still at the Thunderburger restaurant now. Just got the message from Sumair. That's so good to know, Shikamaru breathed a sigh of relief. Their whole group is there, right? They're all very strong and skilled in their own ways, and together, they're a very formidable force. He continued, Shikadai and Ryogi are two of the best strategists right now. They're very agile and adept, and they work very well together too. Chocho reminds me a lot of Choji, but with Karui's ferocity and confidence added in. Iwabe and Denki also have good chemistry as the brawn and brains duo, and Metal Lee is great when he's not nervous, and he's improved his mental state and confidence over the years. Sasuke smiled. Sarada can definitely handle herself, as well as Boruto. I've taught him a lot of my tricks over the past 3 years, and he learns well, so he can defend himself and the others. Mitsuki is great as well, Naruto added. He's already mastered Sage Mode. And his long reach and lightning style can really catch you off guard. And I've taught Sarada a lot of my techniques too, you know? Himawari has really improved so much as well, and her skills with the Byakugan remind me a lot of Neji, so she has so much potential to surpass both her uncle and her mother. And Sumair has her agility, Anbu-level spying and deception skills, her creative water-style jutsus, and Nu of course. That alone gives her a big advantage over any opponent. Sai finished the 5th iteration of the warning, out of breath, and took a break from the PA system. Are you guys forgetting Inojin and the skills he got from me? He chuckled. Also, Wasabi and Namita have the best chemistry among any of the pairs or trios in their group. Their styles complement each other's skills and moves so much. In any case, I have a lot of faith in this new generation. Same here. Naruto and Shikamaru agreed, while Sasuke laughed along with their enthusiasm and nodded. They'll be fine, Naruto assured everyone. Let's just focus on handling the situation quickly and properly. He then ordered Shikamaru, get the police and bomb squad to the marketplace as soon as possible. I'm sure Kiba and Akamaru would love to have some thrill in their lives. Tell them to cordon off the area, locate the bomb, and defuse it safely. Shikamaru nodded and hurriedly typed in a message to the Uchiha police force to head to the central marketplace and dismantle the bomb. Sai smiled in reaction to Naruto's words, and thought about Inojin. Still, stay safe, Inojin, he thought as he went back to the PA system. Again, by order of the 7th Hokage, Naruto Uzumaki, please evacuate the marketplace. There is a bomb. Suddenly, a startling and deafening bang was heard, interrupting Sai, who involuntarily raised both of his arms to face level out of surprise. Then a powerful shockwave rocked the mansion, and the rest of Konoha with it. He stood up, wondering what had happened, when he saw Naruto, Shikamaru, and Sasuke already at balcony. Sai joined them and saw thick black smoke rising from the marketplace, which had a small fiery crater near the middle. The stalls surrounding the crater had also caught fire, and the inferno was spreading quickly. There was a lot of screaming and wailing. Many people were on fire, or running for their lives, or were trapped under rubble, or were already dead. Jigen, Koji asked, tell me why we didn't bring the outers with us. Do you really expect to take the city of Konoha with 9 men? 10 men, Jigen corrected Koji. Remember that my son is in there. Yes, but even with 10 men, do we even have a chance to take Konoha? If it were against Aim, Tani, or even Kiri, it would definitely be possible. But against Konoha, the strongest of all the nations, why? Because Koji, they will be caught off guard. Once we launch our surprise attack, it will take no time for them to falter and lose their fighting spirit. And once Konoha falls, the other ninja nations will follow. We cut off the head, and the rest of the body dies. Yes, but that's assuming we do bring down Konoha, which brings me back to my original question. Why didn't we bring more of the outers along? And why are the few outers we brought along with us stationed 7 kilometers away? They'd sow a lot more chaos and attract a lot more ninja to battle them, leaving us with less opposition to face. It would be a lot easier to bring down Konoha if we had more numbers on our side. The reason I did not bring more outers with us is to directly assault the city is because right now, they're preparing to assault other cities and nations. Simultaneous, dispersed strikes on locations far away from each other will overextend their forces, and prevent the nations from effectively helping each other, if they can provide any help at all. And our outers stationed 7 kilometers away, as you said, they will bombard the city with the new artillery units and shells, on my command. So you decided not to focus the attack on Konoha. I see your logic, it will cause friction and distrust within the allies for not being able to support one another. However, I'm just worried that our assault will not be enough to break Konoha. Even if we don't manage to fell Konoha tonight, Jigen shrugged, I promise you that one thing is for sure. We will light the biggest fire that this land of fire has ever seen. All of a sudden, as if to emphasize Jigen's oath, they heard the rumbling explosion inside Konoha, and afterwards saw a smoke cloud illuminated red and orange by the spreading fire. It was time. Jigen reassured Koji, have faith in me and my plan. Our plans always manage to work out, one way or another. Kashin Koji relented and nodded, shook Jigen's hand, and rushed to his position. Jigen then radioed the other Kara members. That's the signal. From here on out, we use our identification numbers. Are you all at your positions? Yes, we're in position, they said one by one, with Koji being the final one to respond. When all of them had let Jigen know they were in position, he breathed deeply and clasped his hands. Now our assault begins. Commence the attack. Crack the sky and shake the earth. The 4 shinobi stood there at the balcony of the Hokage residence, staring at the thick black smoke rising from the blazing marketplace, stunned at what was happening. Naruto then quickly went back into the office and called up the fire department, the hospital where Sakura worked at, as well as any remaining on-duty and off-duty ninja, to contain the growing blaze, as well as find and treat the survivors. He then went back outside on the balcony. I'm going there myself, I need to help as much as I can. We'll go with you, Sasuke told him. Sakura will need all the help she can get. As he was talking, multiple explosions were heard all around Konoha, as well as screams cut off and cries for help silenced. Naruto and Sasuke looked around, and saw more fires, dust rising into the air, and the figures of those causing the chaos. Damn, Shikamaru cursed. Kara is already here. Sasuke, Naruto turned to him, are you up for a fight? Of course I am, Sasuke replied with a smirk. The question is, are you ready? Shikamaru, summon Kakashi and Tsunade before you join us. We'll need their help. Already on it, Shikamaru replied to Naruto. Sai, send word to Choji, Ino, Shino, Hinata, and everyone else, and tell them to assemble and be ready to defend Konoha, at all costs. Will do. 2 new figures appeared beside them on the rooftop beside the balcony. Lord Hokage, Konohamaru panted, we came here, as quick as we could. Hanabi asked, Naruto, what happened? And how can we help? Konohamaru, Hanabi, Naruto acknowledged, you two go to the market and help the survivors. Bring them to the hospital, then protect the hospital and the communication towers nearby. Konohamaru and Hanabi nodded, but before they could leave, Naruto placed his hand on Konohamaru's shoulder. If anything bad happens to me and Sasuke, you're the next Hokage, and Sarada should come after you. Konohamaru looked at Naruto in the eye for a moment, and then nodded his head. For all our sakes, I hope it doesn't have to come to that. He and Hanabi then quickly ran off towards the marketplace. Sasuke and I will go ahead, Naruto addressed Shikamaru and Sai. Join up with us once you assemble everyone and gather as much of our forces as you can, he finished as he and Sasuke jumped off into the fray. The sudden explosion broke the silence that had settled in the burger place after Sumire and Mitsuki revealed the plot against Konoha, as well as the public announcement from Inojin's father. Boruto was still sitting down, with Sarada and Sumire refilling the cup of water as he kept drinking it, in an effort to the alcohol out of his system. Shikadai, Iwabe and Denki ran to the window and stared, in shock at what had just transpired. To think they would go this far, Shikadai commented as he looked out the window in the direction of the explosion. He could see thick, black, puffing smoke rising rapidly. Wasabi, Namida asked worriedly as she hugged her girlfriend tightly, I'm really scared. Why are they doing this? Wasabi sighed as she deepened the hug. I don't know either. It's madness, what they're doing. They want to bring an end to the ninja and the ninja way, Mitsuki replied to her. To us, it may be madness, but to them, it's simply logical human progress. Adaptation, evolution, and change. Which is why they use science, and not ninjutsu, to carry out their plans, Sumire added. But they also claim to fight for the poor and forgotten of society. Sarada shook her head. They only use those reasons for their destructive purposes and their own selfish agenda. I believe they're dragging the name of science into the dirt. Denki slammed his closed fist against the window, which thankfully did not shatter, as it was plexiglass and not normal glass. After shaking off how much it hurt, he concurred with the two girls. I agree. It pisses me off, how badly they make science and progress look. In my opinion, Kara only seeks to want to spread division, anger, and hatred amongst the ninja nations. Nothing more. More explosions were heard, as well as pleas for help, and cackling, unnerving, maniacal laughter. Trembling sobs from Namida were stifled by Wasabi, while worried gasps escaped from Himawari. Alright guys, Sarada rose and addressed everyone in the room. I think we're safer off hunkering down in here for now. Barricade the doors and windows. We don't know how many attackers there are, where they'll attack from, or even how they'll attack us. We don't know much at all, but we'll manage better by holding up here. We must observe the strength and tactics of our enemies first, Ryogi pointed out, before we either engage them or try to escape. Ryogi, Shikadai replied, we may be able to observe the attackers from the roof. Let's go up there? Ryogi thought about it for a second, then nodded, and the two of them went out the door and up to the roof. Is there a basement here? Iwabe asked a staff member. I could dig a tunnel through it as an emergency exit if we need it. The staff member led him and Metal Lee to the basement storage room, while Denki opened his laptop and opened up a map of Konoha. He centered it at the restaurant, and showed the surrounding streets and buildings, and then he added routes to their homes and to important places such as the Hokage's residence and the hospital. Another set of explosions are heard in the distance, although these ones sounded louder and closer than the first ones. I'll tell Iwabe in what direction and how far to dig, Denki said, taking a picture of the map using his phone. You guys plan the defense up here, he added before following Iwabe down to the basement. Mitsuki kept communicating with Orochimaru through his messenger snake, informing him of the latest events on the ground and in the restaurant, as well as updating the group of what Orochimaru knows. Should we break the glass already? Wasabi asked Sarada, just to make sure we won't be hit with shards of broken glass if an explosion happens nearby? But isn't that plexiglass? Explosions can make it shatter, but what can any of us do to it? None of us have any explosion tags on us, I'm sure. We have Namida, Wasabi confidently said as she looked at Namida, then at Sarada. Sarada saw Wasabi's utter confidence in Namida and nodded. Wasabi patted Namida on the shoulder. You can do this. I'll be gathering everything I can use here for the barricades. Namida grinned to Wasabi. I got this, she replied, and prepared to cast her jutsu. Wait, Inojin interrupted her, shouldn't we plug our ears first? Last time she did this, my ears would have exploded if Nu hadn't put on my earmuffs in time. Namida looked at him with an incredulous look. You have no idea, don't you? She rolled her eyes then clasped her hands together and formed hand signs. Sound style. Shatter. Between her palms, the air visibly began to vibrate with a copious amount of kinetic energy. Namida then released forward the vibration into a small, focused sound wave that shattered the 3 glass panes directly in front of her into a million pieces. It was limited in its angle of action, and so to the surprise of Inojin and Himawari who covered their ears anyway, they heard no sound coming their way. Told you, she smiled and held up a peace sign, as she focused on another set of glass panes. Wasabi quickly flung over chairs and tables, to cover up and barricade the windows and prevent anyone from going in through them. At least without them wasting valuable time and alerting them to their presence. We should, probably have some scout animals, to make sure we see anyone coming from a distance. Inojin let out after a long period of awkward silence, due to being shown up by Namida of all people. He pulled out his scrolls and quickly drew up 6 of his ink lions, though he did make sure to make them dark-hued instead of his normal rainbow-colored ones, just to make sure they won't be easily spotted. Himawari also drew up some ink animals of her own, the same way that Inojin had taught her over the summer, and together they went outside to ask Shikadai and Ryogi, who were still on the roof, where to post the scouts strategically. "I'm feeling better now," Chocho suddenly said, standing up and walking about, albeit with a slight sign of dizziness. "Oh," Sarada remarked, a bit shocked. "You recovered from being wasted that quickly? It's a skill that I got from my parents. I wonder how they're doing." "I'm sure they're doing fine," Sarada assured Chocho, as they hear even more explosions, which were a lot louder and seemed closer than the previous ones. "They're definitely coming closer," Sumair thought to herself as she was preparing to summon Nu. "They're probably fighting off the attackers right now. So is Lord Seventh. And my dad," Sarada continued. "Do you think we can help them out? I'm sure they'll need as much help as they can get." Sumair summoned Nu, then scanned the surrounding areas using Nu's affinity for dark chakra. "I think we can help, though I'm sensing dark chakra coming our way right now. It's coming from the east, still quite far off, but definitely moving in our general direction." Boruto finally rose from his chair, assisted by Mitsuki before standing on his own power. "I'm alright now, don't feel that tipsy or weak anymore." His eye was still active, Sumair and Sarada noted. "Do you see what Sumair is sensing?" Sarada asked him. Boruto focused his eyes in the direction Sumair pointed to. "I'd say they're still about a kilometer away. Yeah, there are two distinct chakra signatures coming our way." Chocho put her two fists together. "We'll show them the price for attacking our city." Himawari, Inojin, Shikadai, and Ryogi all re-entered the door before locking it shut. "We posted the scout animals up," Himawari proudly said to Boruto. "We'll sense anything that passes by them, and have ample warning time to prepare." Boruto patted his sister on the head and fist-bumped Inojin, as Shikadai and Ryogi, as well as Mitsuki, all inputted into Denki's map the information they gathered, as well as the plans and strategies they formed, as Sumair, Sarada, and Chocho all sat down at the table looking at the laptop and discussing how to hold out. Wasabi and Namida returned after they finished barricading the windows, while Metal Lee, Denki, and Iwabe all also came back after digging the tunnel to a neighboring apartment building 2 blocks away. Boruto kept track of the Kara members' chakra signatures, which were growing ever closer to them. "Wait," Himawari warned her friends. "The scout animals are reporting that the Kara members have passed into the outermost perimeter we've set." While motioning to Denki to pay attention to update his laptop, Sarada asked, "How many perimeters did you set?" "We set 3, Shikadai replied. "At 100, 250, and 500 meters. That means they've passed the 500-meter mark." Shikadai, Ryogi, Boruto asked, "What have you guys come up with?" Before they could reply, several huge, deafening explosions occurred nearby, then a gradual lurching sound. It was strangely reminiscent of metal straining and stressing, struggling mightily to maintain its form. "That doesn't sound too good," Namida noted as she scrambled to the window. "Why are they doing this shit?" A terrible, horrific, crashing noise followed as Namida cursed and ran back to her friends from the window. After a few seconds, a choking plume of gray dust and pitch-black smoke burst into the diner through the partially covered windows. Thinking fast, Sumair formed a water wall which surrounded the group, as well as the remaining staff members, from floor to ceiling. The plume of dust went around the water wall, wandering and floating about without settling on the floor. After more than 5 minutes, Sumair let her water wall fall, which mixed with some of the settled dust to become a black, sticky, sooty substance. Still, the air was thick with choking black smoke and the blinding gray dust that begun to cling to and cover the exposed skin and faces of those inside the restaurant. "Get out of here now," Sarada told the remaining staff members, who quickly bolted out through the basement and Iwabe's improvised tunnel to the nearby building. Meanwhile, Sumair washed everyone's faces of the soot. "What the fuck was that?" Wasabi nervously asked as she approached the window. "You don't want to know." Namida tried to pull her back, but Wasabi broke free of her grasp and leaned outside the window. Wasabi's eyes opened wide in utter shock. They brought the whole damn building down. Vanquish any sign of resistance, Jigen commanded his fellow Kara members through their encrypted radios, as they prepared to advance into the city, 2 on each quadrant or side. Break their morale, their spirits, and their belief in each other. Konoha should not survive the night. With that, they bombed and sapped the walls and barriers, causing them to structurally fail and collapse. They then entered Konoha, overwhelming and massacring the early responders. This is number 1, Delta's feminine voice rung through, on the west side. I can't really speak for number 7, but I'm definitely in the mood for some destruction. Can we devastate these industrial and office areas? Jigen thought about it for a second. It would indeed serve as a major distraction for the defending ninja, to split their focus on healing and saving the wounded civilians, as well as to fight their invasion. Go ahead, wreak as much havoc as you can. Well, I want to try out these new weapons anyway. Number 1 out. Afterwards, distant explosions and screams of panic and anguish were heard from her direction. Number 2 here, north side. These new weapons sure are handy as killing machines. We don't even need to exert any chakra, so we can save it for the big attacks in the endgame. Agreed, Jigen replied. His plan was going well. They had caught Konoha off guard, for the most part. Number 8 here, north side as well. The voice of none other than Koji crackled. Remember everyone, don't use chakra unless absolutely necessary. We're finishing off the ninja way after all. To use chakra while doing so would be quite hypocritical on our part. This is number 9. Number 6 and I are encountering some heavy resistance in the south. A loud boom crackled through the radio. Damn it, these fucking assholes are quite the hassle. Number 5 here on the east side. Number 3 broke his radio. Don't ask me how. Even I don't know how he managed that. A curse from his partner barreled through the radio right after. In any case, he requests permission to collapse the skyscrapers and apartment buildings. You have my permission, Jigen authorized. Right after, he saw multiple rockets blow up on a tall building, just above its midpoint. The building started leaning towards the east for about 15 seconds, before it failed completely, collapsing to the ground in a pancaking manner. It blew a terrible dust cloud in all directions, reaching more than 10 blocks away, as well as at least 100 meters in the air, dwarfing and obscuring the other skyscrapers in the area. Jigen couldn't help but smile. Like that skyscraper, Konoha was about to fall. Number 5 here, don't be too full of yourself. He interrupted himself to scold his partner while sighing exasperatedly. Number 3 said he saw some young ninja at the restaurant, around 300 meters to our west. We will engage. From inside the Thunder Burger establishment, Wasabi, Namida, Sumair, Chocho, Boruto, Sarada, Shikadai, and Ryogi were all staring out the window in disbelief at what had taken just place. The plume of dense smoke and ash was still rising from the foundation and rubble of the skyscraper that had just been brought down by Kara. The thick black smoke and ashen gray dust still kept flowing into the restaurant through the gaps in the barricade, and it gave those who breathed it in a choking, suffocating sensation. Inojin was comforting Himawari, telling her not to look, while Denki was sitting in front of his laptop, hands on his face. The owner of the building was their family friend and close business associate, after all. Metal Lee and Iwabe were preparing their weapons from pocket scrolls, which Metal's mother Tenten had given to him for emergency uses, for the coming attack and their escape plan. Meanwhile, Mitsuki was still informing his father of their situation, as well as asking for much-needed advice on what to do. Suddenly, Boruto's eye flashed once again, and he could see that the Kara members were no more than 300 meters away, and moving in on their specific position. Closing his eyes for a second to give them some rest, he opened them and immediately saw the 2 Kara members, who were looking directly at them from the rooftops of another apartment building several blocks away. Sumair also sensed their negative chakra and saw them looking directly at her and her group of friends. Get away from the windows now. Sumair warned them as she pointed to the Kara members. They backed away and returned to the table. I think they saw us, Sarada said in a worried voice. Shikadai, Ryogi, Boruto, if ever you guys have a plan for defense, now's the time to tell us. We need them to come to us, Ryogi replied. That's right, Shikadai concurred. They can't use their explosions inside this place because that would kill them too. Sarada nodded, then asked further, but how do we draw them in here in the first place? No need for that, Sumair responded. They're coming here to us. They're about 200 meters away, and closing in really fast. But I don't even know their fighting style, Shikadai debated, nor what weapons or jutsus they use. How do we fight them? We just give them everything we've got, Boruto affirmed. Support each other, use your strengths to cover each other's weaknesses. There are 14 of us and 2 of them, so we need coordination and teamwork. That's not enough, Shikadai retorted. We can only go so far with skill and grit and guts. We need an actual plan, and lots of luck too. Sarada was wondering how they could catch the Kara members off guard, or lull them into a false sense of security and overconfidence, to underestimate the collective strength of everyone in the room. Suddenly, she thought of a risky plan. I have an idea. Wasabi, you're not going to like this. The 2 Kara members tried to open the door, but it was barricaded shut. The younger one, with short, raven black hair, was tired from both the fighting and from the wanton destruction his partner was causing. We can just go through the windows, right? His companion glanced at him with a disappointed look. He was a fat old man, in his early 60s, with graying hair and wrinkly, calloused skin. But that'll let them know where we are. We could easily get stuck and they could attack us while we're just entering. Smart of them to barricade, the younger Kara Inner, who was in his late 20s, groaned. But you could just blow them up right now. Boo. Fuck off, Grado. You're no fun. Damn it, Palperin, you idiot. What did Lord Jigen tell us right before we entered the city? No names. Have you forgotten why that rule is in play? I know why. The older Kara Inner member named Palperin talked down to his younger counterpart in a condescending voice. But I don't give a fuck. I don't have any close family left anyway. And I'm sure you don't have any either. Actually, I do. Why do you think I joined Kara? To fight for them and the people who've ended up like us. Palperin laughed and rolled his eyes in apathy. Did you really think I would give a shit whether you have family or not? Or what you're fighting for? We're only partners tonight to help Jigen sow chaos, kill the ninja, destroy this city, and help Jigen's goal. Nothing else. I just want to have some fun in this damn dreary city. Come on now. Screw you, old man. Fine, Palperin, but you destroy the door. Scoffing, the old Kara member kicked the door repeatedly, until finally he decided to destroy the handle and locks, and it swung open, pushing some tables and chairs away as well. Upon stepping inside, they saw a brown-haired girl sitting on the only table left standing, shaking and quietly sobbing. The 2 Kara members started approaching her slowly. The older ones put his hand on her shoulder while remaining behind her, while the younger one went to the opposite side of the table and faced her. Are you all right? Grado asked her, the concern in his voice clear and surprisingly genuine. The brunette shook her head. Where are your other friends? I don't know. I came back from the bathroom after the loud explosion outside, and they were all gone. They all left me behind. Tears left her eyes and quickly flowed down her face. She pointed to a window at the far side that had its barricade hastily torn down, implying they had fled through there. Don't worry, the one behind her assured her. We'll take good care of you, he continued as he went for her squeezing and fondling with them roughly. Palperin whispered audibly in the kunoichi's ear. You look like the type of girl who doesn't resist too much. Exactly the type one like to fuck. He then picked her up and slammed her onto the table, an audible moan of pain coming from the girl. The younger Kara member looked on with a look partially of disgust and partially of disbelief at what he was seeing. Are you fucking kidding me, Palperin? And at a time like this? You're bloody insane. I'll wait outside then. I'll try to spot where her friends went. Unbeknownst to them, the group actually had not left, but was hiding silently behind the counter. They were looking on and were ready to strike when the guard of the Kara members was down. Wasabi, however, was having a really hard time waiting, as she was watching Namida in the first stages of being abused. I am going to kill him, she muttered as she clenched her fists and grit her sharp teeth. I swear I am going to kill him. Sumair, even though she felt horrible for Wasabi and scared for Namida, warned Wasabi quietly, not yet. Both of them are still there. We have to get their guard down first. Why did I agree to your stupid plan in the first place? Wasabi angrily muttered to Sarada. How would I have known that he would be this evil? Sarada tried to reason with Wasabi. We're extremely lucky that they didn't choose to kill Namida at first sight, Sumair added, breathing tense but with a temporary relief. But that was a huge risk, Sarada. Look, I'm sorry for putting Namida at risk. Look at that. Wasabi Whisper yelled as loudly as she could without alerting the attackers to their presence. Namida is getting raped right in front of my eyes. And it's your fault. Wasabi, Sumair turned Wasabi around to face her, please listen to me. We won't let it get to that. I promise. Wasabi looked at her, tears starting to form in her eyes. Wasabi hugged her tightly, and Sumire made her look away from what was happening. No one move or make a sound, Sarada silently whispered to everyone else. We only attack when their guards are down, preferably when we split them up. And Nu, give us the earplugs now. Looking at Sumire, who quietly nodded to it, Nu starting handing out the earplugs from its pouch to everyone with its tail. You sure you don't want to join me? The old man holding Namida down asked his partner, as he was unbuckling his belt. The only response that was given by Grado was, fuck off, I'm not into that shit, as a look of annoyance and dismissal was instead shown. The younger Kara member, who looked like he at least had some principles unlike his old partner, walked outside and spoke into his radio. Number 5 here, East Side. We'll be delayed in meeting up at the center. Number 3 here is, forcing himself onto a young girl. Tell it like it is. The vile old man named Palperin retorted loudly, wanting to be heard in the radio. If you guys can hear me, I'm raping her, he screamed between fits of laughter. Well, yes. The young man named Grado, who called himself Number 5 like a secret code name, sighed into the radio he held in his right hand. He is. No, he doesn't listen to me. He's all like, respect your elders and shit. The girl? She was left behind by her group. I'm looking out for that group now. It was the large one we saw a while ago. Palperin looked at the girl, his grin full of malice and lust, and his pants down. I'll try to make sure you enjoy it. I won't guarantee it though. But at least I'll let you live after all this is done. He pulled her shorts down, revealing her panties, while letting his hands grope her hair above her shirt. He started to groan, relishing his dominance over the girl, whose eyes were still shut tight. Suddenly, the girl opened her eyes and tightly clenched her fingers on his wrists, her nails drawing blood from his wrinkly skin. My name is Namida, you motherfucker, she smiled creepily, with yandere-like eyes, at the old man above her. And I'll make sure you die. What? Namida didn't even give him a chance to reply, as she inhaled deeply and then unleashed her signature, colorful, vicious sound wave blast jutsu at full power. Her scream was one not primarily of fear or sadness, but of anger and hate. She had merely feigned her fear and sorrow. The resulting sound wave caught Palperin, as well as Grado outside, completely off guard. The old man's head torqued and bent backwards at an awkward angle while Namida held on tightly to him. When she finally let go of his bloody wrists after 5 seconds, he was blown backwards straight into the ground. He curled up into a fetal position and tried to cover his ears until the sound waves stopped. Why you little fucking bitch? The vile old Kara member screamed as he pulled out his weapon from its holster. He was about to shoot her, but he was instead shot in the hand and arm by 2 quick water bullets from Sumire, then pounced upon by Wasabi. The younger Kara Inner, who was disoriented from the deafening noise, stood outside looking at what had happened. He internally cursed himself for not checking behind the counter, but he also blamed it on the absolutely reprehensible actions of his partner. He then saw 7 young ninja looking at him from the entrance and moving towards him. Looking at them and analyzing them, he could tell that they were all individually strong and skilled, and together they could pack a punch, and even take a Kara Inner down, as they did to Palperin. One of them, a wide brown-skinned girl, ran towards him, with a partially enlarged arm, and he stepped back before she smacked the ground before him. Another one's shadow jutsu, one he knew would paralyze him, followed his movements eagerly. Not wanting to risk having the same fate as Palperin, he retreated quickly. Number 5 speaking. Number 3 got himself captured. Be advised, I'm coming over to the south. Wasabi put her claws on the throat of the struggling Palperin, as Mitsuki restrained him with his extended limbs. Sarada put him under genjutsu using her Sharingan, and Sumire sucked all of his chakra reserves dry with the dark chakra snake of Nu. The rest of the group went back in. The other one was smart, he fled, Shikadai told the ones inside. Sumire finished, and the old man was visibly a husk of his former self, as he had his chakra fully drained. She's mine, and I'm hers, you know? Wasabi informed him, with Namida holding her other hand while looking away. And you tried to rape her, in front my eyes? Big mistake, the last one you'll ever make. Wasabi quickly punctured and slashed his throat. Blood spurted from the wound as he collapsed onto the ground, twitching and choking for several seconds, trying in vain to breathe his last words out, before lying still on an expanding pool of his own blood. Everyone looked away from the gory scene, except for a smiling Wasabi, whom Namida had to pull away. "One down," Sarada said, with relief pouring out from her voice. "How many of them are there?" "There are 9 left," Mitsuki replied after informing Orochimaru of their kill. "My father is telling me that the Hokage, Sasuke Uchiha, Shikamaru, and others are holding 2 of them at bay in the south side of the city, and the rest of the old generation is trying to push back another 2 in the north. We repelled the 2 attacking the east." Denki put his laptop on the table and updated the map. With a flick of his fingers, he expanded it beyond their original perimeter, and included much of the city. Everyone took a seat around the table. "It's 1:07 a.m. right now," Denki noted as he turned again to Mitsuki. "You're still talking to your father, right? How are things going on the west side of Konoha? It seems that the defenders there are being driven back to the city center by 2 attackers as well. The head of the police force and most of the policemen are there. But the west is falling fast." Denki updated the map with the new information. "I think it's safe to assume that they attacked Konoha with 2 on each quadrant side. But that only accounts for 8, Mitsuki. What about the other 2 unaccounted for? The 9th is only observing and coordinating them from a safe distance. The 10th, the one who bombed the marketplace, is nowhere to be found. Even my father doesn't know who or where he is, nor does Lord Hokage, nor anyone else. Does anyone here want to help reinforce the west flank?" Ryogi asked while observing the battle map. "It sounds like they're having an extremely difficult time holding out." "I don't know, it looks like a lost cause there," Shikadai mused. "We're probably better off helping out my dad in the south or my mom in the north. If we can help either of them win, we'll free up a lot more forces to help out the other side, then mop up the western front from multiple sides." "I agree, but only partially," Sarada tapped her fingers on the table. "I think we should still send a few people over there to help keep the attackers at bay in the west." "Yes, we should," Sumire agreed with Sarada. "What happens to us if the western front falls completely while we're still fighting on both the northern and southern sides? We'll be surrounded once they take the center, not to mention they'll kill many who evacuated deeper into the city. We'll be trapped by a pincer movement," Ryogi pointed out. "True, we can't let the west side fall to Kara, or else they'll literally fuck us from both sides." Sarada got a pen and paper from her purse. "Alright, so we had to split into 3 groups. Group A will assist the north flank, Group B will support the south side where Lord 7th and my dad are, and Group C will help the west hold out for long enough to give us time to reinforce." "Wait," Boruto interrupted. "Mitsuki, who exactly are defending the north side?" "They're still assembling." Mitsuki got the paper where he wrote all the information his father was telling him. He looked at it, before telling his blonde friend, "Your mom is there, if that's what you wanted to know." He gave it to Boruto, who set it on the center of the table as everyone looked at it. Hinata, Shino, Ino, Choji, Karui, and Tamari were all preparing themselves to fight in the north quadrant, while Kotaro, Rock Lee, and Kiba were holding onto the failing west front, and Naruto and Sasuke were defending the south part of the city, though the paper noted that Sakura, Sai, Shikamaru, and Kakashi were either on hand or on their way south as well. "I hope my parents will be safe there," Chocho said worriedly. "For once," Inojin piped up, "we agree there, Chubs." "Guys," Sarada caught their attention again, "we still need to choose the groups. Who wants Group A, the northern front?" After a few moments of thought, Inojin raised his hand. Immediately after, Himawari did as well. Iwabe, Chocho, and Ryogi followed. "Who wants in on Group B, the south side?" Boruto, Mitsuki, Sumire, Shikadai, and Sarada raised their hands. After a few moments, Wasabi and Namida raised their hands too. "No," Sarada told them, "too few people will be left for the west defense." "Well," Wasabi replied, "whoever's left I guess? So that's me, Namida, Metal Lee, and Denki." "Yeah, that will do. So, the groups are all complete." "Alright." Sarada put her fist in the middle of the table, and everyone else followed for a group fist bump. "Let's move out. Our parents, friends, and Konoha all need us." "Yeah, let's do this," the group said in unison. Naruto and Sasuke were fighting off the 2 Kara members when Sakura arrived. "From what I gather," Sakura asked them, "this doesn't happen to be another Otsutsuki attack, is it?" "Nope," Sasuke told her. "These guys are human." Sakura breathed a sigh of relief. "But these guys are still strong." Team 7 reunited once again. The three of them looked behind and saw Kakashi, Sai, and Shikamaru reinforcing them. Though not quite in the circumstances I would have preferred. We can hang out and catch up later, Naruto told him, but for now, we need to stop these guys first. Oh please, one of the Kara members spoke up, you'll stop us? You have no idea how much the world has passed you by, have you? The other Kara member pulled out his weapon and aimed it at them. The end of the ninja way is close by. Our leader watches us from afar, and even if we fall here, he will ensure our victory. Is that supposed to be some kind of metaphor? Shikamaru asked. No, Sasuke replied, I think he means it literally. Either their leader is here somewhere, or he will be here soon. Shikamaru, Naruto ordered, there are still innocent civilians in our area. Can you try to get them all out of here? They might get caught up in the battle. On it, Shikamaru replied as he left. Sai, Naruto turned to him, can you be in charge of communication? We need to know how the battles are going elsewhere in Konoha and the Shinobi Union, and if possible, any weaknesses in our enemies. So keep in contact with Orochimaru for that purpose. Will do. Sai bowed out of the battle. Sasuke, Naruto asked, you sure you're not rusty? Nope, I'm sure you're the one who needs to shake off the rust. Naruto laughed. Probably true. I still got this though, you know? Sasuke gathered chakra with his Mangekyo Sharingan and Rinnegan at the ready, while Sakura accessed her inner monstrous strength, as well as putting her healing abilities on point. Kakashi readied his purple lightning. You know this is a futile fight, the Kara member warned them. For you, Sasuke asserted and smirked, as he drew out his katana and pointed to their two enemies. Naruto decided it was a good time to tap into Kurama's chakra mode. Sasuke formed the partial body Susanoo, which armored and molded around the Nine Tails chakra, just as it had in their battle against Momoshiki years ago. If only I still had my Sharingan, mused Kakashi, I would be able to help a whole lot more. You still have a lot left to give, Sakura told him. We both have a large role to play in this fight. Kakashi nodded and replied, I'll do my best with what I still have. The four of them and the two Kara attackers met each other in a clashing storm of swords, jutsus, and volleys of fire and metal. Away from the battle unfolding, Shikamaru organized the survivors and led them towards the evacuation areas and away from the conflict zones. Sai was communicating with Orochimaru by about the events on the ground, and providing him with descriptions of their modern weapons. He was also trying to call Ino, hoping that Kara had not yet made it to the center of the city, where the celled towers of Kaminarimon Company were located. Finally, someone picked up the call on the other end. Sai, Ino exclaimed, how are you holding up there? I'm fine, don't worry, Sai told her as he put her on speaker. Lord 7th, Sasuke, Sakura, and Kakashi-sensei are doing all the fighting. I'm here in charge of comms. That's good. Stay out of the danger zone. Have you heard from the kids yet? Not yet. The last I heard of them, they were still in the burger place. Excuse me, Orochimaru interrupted them, but I have just gotten updated information regarding them. According to Mitsuki, they routed the two attacking Kara inners at the restaurant they were in. They are all alive and moving over to support you. I heard Inojin and Himawari are coming over to you, Ino. Thank goodness, Sai breathed as if he was unburdened from a heavy weight on his shoulders. Thanks for the info, Ino gratefully thanked Orochimaru. Anyway, Sai continued talking to Ino. Where are you now? I'm just north of the marketplace. I saw Hinata rush past me a minute ago, though I'm waiting for reinforcements. I think, yes, Tamari just arrived now. Sai, Tamari's voice burst from the phone. Have you heard anything about Shikadai and Ryogi? And my husband? Your husband's safe with us, don't worry. He's evacuating everyone south into the city center. As for Shikadai and Ryogi and their friends, Orochimaru said they routed two invaders in the east. Tamari was still worried, as any mother would be in this situation. Where are they now? Sai paused, not remembering if Orochimaru told him anything about that. Orochimaru, where are Shikadai and Ryogi going? Hold on, wait. In the background, Orochimaru was heard shuffling for the right notes. According to Mitsuki, Shikadai is in Group B, so he's going over to where Shikamaru is. Ryogi is part of Group A, so he's coming over to you, Tamari. Tamari's audible sigh of relief came from the other side of the line. I'm glad they're okay. Keep yourselves safe, and do what you can over there, Sai told them. Ino, I'll meet up with you after the battle. I hope you didn't just jinx that, Ino replied with worry. I love you. Stay safe there too, you hear me? I love you too. Call me when Inojin and his group arrive there. And tell me about any other developments. With that, Sai dropped the call. Orochimaru's voice popped up in the radio once more, although there was a lot of crackle and static. Damn, Otto is under attack, Sai made out from the increasingly static radio. More explosions crackled through the radio. Being bombed right in. Kara's here as we. I'll keep you posted for more updates, he assured Orochimaru. Once we repel the attack and reorganize, we'll help you guys out. Keep, son, Mitsuki safe. The line cut out afterwards, replaced by static that did not go away. We will, Sai sighed as he turned off the radio. In the distance, he saw a flash of colors rushing towards him. Red, yellow, green, blue, and violet. Orochimaru, your son is here. He mused as if he was talking to Orochimaru, as the colors became clearer and he realized who they were. Sai-sensei, Sumair exclaimed as they arrived. I'm glad you're safe. I'm also happy to see you all, Sai greeted them back. Where's Dad and Lord Seventh? Sarada asked. Are they okay? Boruto added. They're close by, Sai replied to them. Your mother is also there, Sarada, as well as Lord Sixth. Really? Guys, let's go there now. We have to help them in whatever ways we can. Wait, Sai interrupted. You guys came from a reunion, right? So I assume none of you have any weapons on hand? The group paused. Don't worry, get them here. Sai gave them a bag of ninja weapons, from which they all got kunai, shuriken, and paper bombs. Keep safe, Sai-sensei, Sumair told him as the five of them left. Hinata looked around at the devastation that Kara had caused to Konoha. Around her, people lay in the streets and ruined houses, dead or dying in pools of blood. Men, women, and children, ninja and civilians alike, were all suffering and bleeding out, with holes burrowed deep into their bodies, and in some cases, entire limbs had been sheared off. They didn't even bother discriminating, she thought as her blood came to boil. You too will pay for what you've done, she threatened them as she activated her Byakugan and formed signs. Twin lion fists. One of the attackers laughed and aimed his weapons at her. You'll kill the both of us? You're alone, and we'll make sure you'll die alone. But she's not alone. Out from the shadows, Tamari and Ino landed aside her. And there's more where they came from, said Karui, who was basically holding on for dear life to Choji, who had used his butterfly wings to get both of them to the battle as quickly as possible. Just trailing them was Shino, who had his hordes of bugs out in full force. The two Kara attackers recognized these people as heroes of Konoha from the Fourth Great Ninja War. Nonetheless, they readied themselves for the fight. One of the Kara inners, the same one that had threatened Hinata moments earlier, radioed their comrades. Number 2 here, we've encountered some strong ninja, heroes from the last Great Ninja War. Please advise. Before he could get any reply, Hinata, Tamari and Karui charged at them, while Choji transformed into a human boulder and was rolling out against them, and Shino was trying to use his bugs to swarm, distract, or even catch them. Koji, the odds are stacked against us now. Should we retreat? Not yet, Vern, we have to drain their strength first, Kashin Koji responded as he dodged Shino's bugs and Choji's partial expansion attacks at the same time. Or take them out, if we can. I'm sorry to say this, but we'll have to use our jutsus right now. Koji formed hand signs and blew oil and fire at the Konoha war heroes, while Vern unleashed the full fury of his loud and heavy weapon onto the defenders. Most of them were able to deflect and dodge the hail of small metal projectiles that came their way, though Choji was hit twice in the chest and was badly wounded. Ino and Karui ran to him, both attempting to heal him and stop the gushing blood from flowing out of his body. You're Hinata, right? Hinata turned and faced one of the Kara members, the one whom she heard a while ago call himself, Number 8. He looked eerily familiar to someone he had seen known before, when she was a teenager. She stepped back to a safe distance, and kept her guard up. Who are you? I am Kashin Koji. I know your son personally as well. However, you probably know me and remember me as someone else, he told her as he summoned a huge boiler toad above her. Hinata barely got out of the way as the giant toad landed where she had been only a split second ago. He then formed a Rasengan and slammed her with it, sending her flying backwards into a wall and breaking through it. Shino tried to hold him back with his swarm, only to be knocked back easily by the toad. Hinata coughed up blood as she rose back to her feet. She tried to hit an approaching Kashin Koji with her gentle fist, but it was expertly blocked. He grabbed her arm and put her in a restraining chokehold, and aimed the barrel of his weapon to her head. He led her back out into full view of everyone else. "Cease your futile resistance, unless you want me to blow her head off." Tamari looked at Hinata, who was furiously shaking her head, then at Ino and Karui. Then, she saw some colored ink animals in the distance, slowly nearing them. She realized that Inojin, Himawari, Ryogi, and others were somewhere close by. She glared at Kashin Koji and closed her eyes. "If we surrender, you'll let her go?" "No," Hinata screamed. "If you surrender, this will all be for nothing. We're all going to die." Kashin Koji tightened the chokehold and had his finger coiled to pull the trigger at a moment's notice. "No funny business from any of you. You'll all be forgotten," Vern continued with a cold laugh. "You'll all turn to dust and arg." Out of nowhere, he stopped and coughed up blood, as a spear of cold ice impaled him from behind. Ryogi kicked him down and severed his head with the tip of his ice spear, making sure that he would not somehow resurrect like in the video games that he, Shikadai, Inojin, Boruto, Denki, and Mitsuki played. "We won't be the forgotten ones," he retorted with his deadpan look pointed towards the decapitated attacker, and then to Kashin Koji. "Don't you dare hurt my mom." Himawari screamed as she rushed in with her own gentle fist. Koji let go of Hinata to block it. The ground on which Koji was standing shook and rose, pushing him further from Hinata. "Nice job, Iwabe," Inojin said as he set his rainbow-colored lions to chase after the lone attacker. Koji jumped backwards and easily dispatched the animals. Only then did he sense that Chocho was right above him, with her arms partially expanded. He barely dodged her attack as well, sidestepping away at the last millisecond. "The situation is now untenable," he assessed. "Very well, I bid you all adieu." With that, Kashin Koji retreated, and his giant boiler toad disappeared as well. With the threat out of the way, everyone rushed to Choji's side. He had 2 large holes in his chest. He was having a very difficult time breathing, as blood was pouring from his mouth. "I can't stop the bleeding," Ino told them. "We have to get him to the hospital right now. Tsunade is there right now, and we'll operate on him as quickly as possible." It took 6 of them, Karui, Chocho, Shino, Ino, Inojin, and Ryogi, to carry Choji to the hospital. The rest, including Hinata and Himawari, moved on to help Naruto in the southern quadrant of Konoha. Once the 6 carrying Choji reached Konoha Hospital, Konohamaru, Hanabi, Tsunade, and the rest of the staff brought him to one of the few remaining vacant emergency operating rooms immediately. Inojin and Ryogi took a breather first and lied down on the floor for 5 minutes, their strength having been sapped away both the battles and having to carry Chocho's father from the field to the hospital, which was about 1.5 kilometers away. Shino looked out from the glass panes at the devastation to the west and south. Chocho hugged her mom tightly, crying into her shoulder. "Is Dad going to be all right?" Karui didn't reply for a long while. Through the glass window, she looked at the operating room where Choji was undergoing emergency surgery to save his life. It was Lady Fifth who was tending him, after all, so the best treatment was being given to her husband. Still, she had never seen those weapons, nor had she seen those kinds of wounds before. It seemed the ninja world, and the modern world, had become much more dangerous. I'm sure Dad will make it," Karui finally assured her daughter, trying to comfort her. "My husband is no weakling, after all. So when this is all over, I'm going to treat both of you to all the ramen and burgers and potato chips and whatever else you two would love to eat. I promise." Once they were rested enough, Inojin and Ryogi got back to their feet, rushed out of the hospital, and ran south, where Inojin had promised Himawari and Hinata they would meet up. Ino was looking at the digital clock in the 11th floor lobby, which read 2:03 a.m., when she glanced at her son running by. She remembered to contact Sai once Inojin and the others came, so she called Sai. "Sai, can you hear me?" She heard loud booms in the background. "Yes dear, are Inojin and the others there with you now?" "They were, but they're now heading over there to support you." "So I take it that you guys drove off the attack from the north?" "Yes. It was actually the kids who drove them off, for the most part." "That's great news. Sounds all good there." Ino paused. "Not really. Choji is gravely wounded. We brought him to surgery just a while ago. I don't know if he'll make it." It's really bad. Lady Tsunade is operating on him now, isn't she? Because Sakura is here right now. Yup, she's still one of the best medical ninja and surgeons Konoha has ever seen. But, I'm still worried about Choji. Are you going to assist her in the surgery? No, there are so many other people here who need my help. So many others wounded, burned, and dying. I'm going to assist them for now. If ever Lady Fifth asks for it though, I'll gladly support her. Alright, you go and help those people. I'll keep the comms up. Suddenly, 4 nearby explosions, one right after the other, interrupted them, and the line immediately went dead. The sonic boom from the explosion and the static from the radio both rang endlessly in Ino's ears. After regaining her senses, Ino saw Shino backing away from the large glass pane windows. Ino rushed closer to take a look at what happened. Outside, she saw the Kaminariman Company building, and the 2 communications towers beside it that were lurching dangerously towards it, but they held firm for a short while. The 2 legs of each comms tower on the side the building were bent, mangled, and somehow on fire. The fiery inferno also spread upwards on the metal trusses and beams at an unnatural pace. In less than a minute, a great metallic sound was heard as the trusses failed and gave way. The metal structure of the communications towers collapsed into the skyscraper beside it, tearing one massive gaping hole into the lower side of the glass and steel exterior of the Kaminariman skyscraper and destroying about 10 floors, and soon enough the fire spread from the base of the 2 towers to inside the skyscraper. The communications towers had been destroyed, which Ino surmised was the reason why the radio signals had stopped so abruptly. Ino also saw a shadowy figure running away from the burning towers. They're here, Ino concluded in panic. Everyone, get away from the windows. Be careful of flying broken shards of glass. She looked to her right and saw Konohamaru and Hanabi rushing by towards the staircase. Every able-bodied ninja, Konohamaru shouted at the top of his lungs, assemble at the ground floor now. Barricade the entrance, and be prepared to make a stand. Hold them back, damn it. Stand your ground. Kotaro and Kiba were struggling at the front lines, as disorienting explosions rang all around them. They had been trying to hold off the 2 Kara-Inners for long enough to let their decimated police officer force retreat. Most of the overmatched police shinobi had been massacred during the chaotic battle, and the 2 Kara members assaulting Konoha had been causing rampant chaos and destruction in their wake. Behold, the power of youth and training. The 2 glanced back for a second to see Rock Lee arriving. I see you 2 need assistance. And I see your wig is still there, Kiba replied annoyed, though he was glad that some help came. Quick, we need a lot more help for this. Oh, Delta, the lone female inner of Kara, scoffed and smirked while she held an oval-shaped explosive. This guy has a wig, you say? We'll get your wig split. Focus on the battle, her partner suggested somewhat sternly, as he sheathed his twin blades and pointed his other weapon, a pistol that was quite rare in this continent, at Kiba. This is no time for cockiness, Delta. Delta raised her hands and relented. You got me there, Amato. Kiba quickly used Fang Wolf Fang, but he tired himself even further with it. Realizing the dire straits Konoha was in, Rock Lee activated his 7th gate and went after the female Kara member. Kotaro led the rest of his forces to relative safety as the battle raged on behind them. I remember you, Amato gritted his teeth as he sidestepped Kiba's attack. You're the one who killed my entire family. The moment Kiba and Akamaru stopped spinning, he pulled the trigger 4 times and sprayed 4 metallic bullets at them. Kiba barely dodged them, but Akamaru was hit. The dog howled in surprise and pain, before falling sideways and whimpering, breathing laboriously. No, Kiba screamed in anguish. He threw some kunai at the attacker, who dodged them rather easily. He ran back to Akamaru, and cradled him in his arms. It's all right, you'll be okay. He reassured his dearest companion with tears flowing down his face, since he realized that it was a mortal wound. As Akamaru faded away, its slowly closing eyes stared at Kiba, and it licked and nudged his master one last time, before it went limp. Kiba started shaking and trembling in rage. The stars floated about inside his eyes from the hatred he felt, and those eyes of his turned an angry shade of red. He glared at the object of his hate, the one who killed his beloved Akamaru. You will pay for this. I will kill you slowly. I'll make sure you feel the pain, he swore, as he lunged at his enemy. The Kara member sighed and backstepped to avoid the attack entirely. He glared back at Kiba, who was incessantly trying to strike him down with his kunai and his fangs. I also have a vendetta against you and your people. I am Amato Croa, from the land of rain, but I'm sure you know me. Remember the Croa massacre 3 years ago? You and your police commando team killed my family. My entire clan, everyone I ever loved, save for myself and for my niece. And to make it equal, you, and everyone you love and hope to protect, will die tonight. In his absolute rage, Kiba stopped caring about everything around him. Seeing blood red, he only focused on his enemy. I don't care. I'll fucking murder your family and your friends again, in a heartbeat. You're going to fucking die now. No you won't, Amato smirked and taunted Kiba. Come at me now, you bastard. Let's see who lives and who dies tonight. Kiba became reckless in his rage, and his opponent took advantage. The Kara member blocked a particularly reckless strike from Kiba, quickly aimed his weapon at Kiba's right leg, and fired another shot. A circular hole ripped straight through Kiba's lower leg, shattering his right shin bone and tearing a permanent cavity through the muscle and tissue. He fell to the ground, screaming in agony, but he got back up and tried to slash at his attacker's neck. Quicker to attack, Amato fired another shot into Kiba's left leg, and so Kiba fell short. His left shin was blown to bits by Amato as well. Kiba crawled and dug deep for a large pounce, but he was slowed by his severe injuries and the blood loss that followed, and once he did, Amato easily sidestepped as a bullfighter would around a raging bull. Amato backpedaled a bit to let Kiba try to stand, holstering his weapon as he watched. Kiba fell 3 times on his knees, which were killing him from the pain, before he finally stood, his hands on his knees. Rock Lee, help me up, now, he demanded, his face down and grimacing from the pain. I'll kill this motherfucker. Rock Lee kicked back at his feminine opponent before landing 5 meters behind Kiba. But just as Kiba faced up to look at his enemy and curse him more, Amato pulled out an extremely sharp knife from one of the 2 scabbards on the back of his waist and lunged forward. In the blink of an eye, he thrust his blade and stabbed Kiba in the eye, the bloody razor-sharp edge protruding from the back of Kiba's skull. Kiba groaned and shuddered in shock. Rock Lee stared in horror, eyes and mouth agape, as Amato looked at him and smirked. He kicked Kiba down, removing his knife from Kiba's head in the process, and Kiba twitched and shook for a couple of seconds before laying still in a growing pool of his own blood. Amato motioned to Rock Lee to come for him, as he pulled out another knife from the other scabbard behind his back, the twin of the one he used to kill Kiba. The other attacker arrived behind Rock Lee, but Amato waved her off. Delta, go after the rest of the forces. I'll deal with this one. You sure? All right, good luck. The woman nodded and rushed away, following the retreating Konoha forces. Rock Lee, who was in his 7th gate, charged at him and used his power and taijutsu to try and knock down his defenses. But Amato matched him with his speed, reflexes, and parrying ability. He blocked Rock Lee's attacks with his knife and counterattacked with speed, ensuring that if Rock Lee went full power on his strikes, he would cut himself open, or even slice his own limbs off, just by the force he exerted and the speed of the countering knife. After a while, both men had exchanged and landed strikes with one another. Rock Lee's hands and arms were full of gushing cuts, with blood quickly flowing from them. He also had a deep stab wound on his right side, which he was sure had punctured his lung. Amato on the other hand had 2 broken ribs from a punch he was not able to parry, as well as deep bone bruises and a few broken bones from the sheer power of Rock Lee's punches and kicks. Suddenly, Amato charged forward and jump-kicked Rock Lee with one leg. Rock Lee, heavily fatigued and cut at this point, guarded and blocked the attack, but as he did, his guard buckled. Amato then shifted his weight and used the other leg, turning into a flipping bicycle kick which avoided Rock Lee's buckled guard and hit him right on the chin. Rock Lee was knocked on his back, as Amato landed and prepared his knives. Just as he was about to step forward, he noticed that a young boy, in the same outfit, and who looked the same as his opponent, rushed forth and blocked his path. A woman in a white and red kimono also joined them. Amato paused, his eyes becoming gentler, and there was an obvious change in his demeanor. He breathed deeply, then flipped his knives and sheathed them in a cross pattern behind him. I'm not going to kill you, nor anyone else here tonight, he told the 3 of them. This is a nice family you have. I won't do anything to ruin that, unlike some people here, he continued musing as he looked at a fallen Kiba. My vendetta would be partially misplaced. As he said this, he slowly approached Rock Lee, who was also feeling the fatigue from their duel. Tenten and Metal Lee warned him to stay back and readied themselves, but Rock Lee stood up and walked through them. I heard what you said a while ago. I knew part of what Kiba had done, and so I never trusted him or looked at him the same way afterwards. And I don't condone what he did at all. If ever this is any consolation for you, on behalf of all Konoha and all of the Land of Fire, I apologize. But I must ask of you, leave the rest of Konoha be. Your personal mission is done, I presume. As I said, my vendetta was with him and the people who took part in the massacre of my clan. Not with you, or anyone else. So while our battle is over, my mission is not quite done just yet. Still, Amato smiled, genuinely this time, and offered his hand. But I do have to say, that was one hell of a duel we just had. Indeed it was, Rock Lee responded as he accepted the handshake, which they both turned into the ninja sign for reconciliation. Though I wouldn't want to go through that again. Same here, Amato replied, as he saluted to them. He then sprinted away towards the south. Rock Lee looked at him for a few seconds before nearly collapsing, only to be supported by his wife and son, who brought him to the hospital. Deeper into the city, Kotaro was bringing up the rear of his police forces, and forcing tired stragglers to keep marching. Before long however, the other Kara attacker had caught up to the police force and continued her assault on them with her explosives, launchers, and amorphous body. Kotaro, looking at his badly wounded and tired men, ordered them to keep moving, and he stood his ground. Don't move one step closer, Kotaro demanded of his foe, while extending his arms to block her attacker's path. I think you overestimate your worth, his attacker, a blonde woman, with sharp, piercing, intimidating, purple eyes, warned him. You are in no position to make any demands. It's my responsibility to keep Konoha and its citizens safe. As head of the police force, I will gladly die for this city, Lord Hokage, and everyone. She aimed her rocket launcher at him. I won't warn you again. If you don't get out of the way, she said before she quickly pulled the trigger of her launcher anyway, firing the rocket towards her foe and hitting the ground just in front of Kotaro. Kotaro was blown a long way backwards, head over heels, before landing on the street face first. He tried to get up, but his legs weren't under him, he felt, as he fell back down on his stomach. He couldn't feel anything, nor could he move anything, below his waist. Now, Namida, sound style. Sparrow's cry jutsu. Before he could be finished off by his blonde foe, a deafening, disorienting, and downright painful sound wave crashed through both of them. His enemy was blown backwards, and a brunette with wasabi green clothes came to him, flipped him onto his back, when suddenly she stopped and stared, medical ninjutsu aura already on her hands. The other kunoichi, another brunette with dawn orange clothes, covered her mouth gasping, and looked at her companion, averting her gaze from Kotaro. Wasabi, Namida looked at her, shaking her head as tears flowed from her eyes. What's wrong? Aren't you going to heal me? He asked the kunoichi beside him. I can still fight. She merely bit her lip and shook her head, tears forming in her eyes. I don't think I can. What fucking kind of kunoichi are you then? Kotaro screamed, filled with adrenaline. It's not anything that bad, I'm sure of it. He glared at her before he got up on his elbows and looked at the damage his lower body had received. Simply put, he didn't have any legs anymore. Everything from his knees and below had been sheared off by the explosion of the rocket, which blew up directly in front of and under him. Blood was spurting out from the stumps of his severed limbs. The mere sight of his missing limbs caused Kotaro to fall into shock, the adrenaline rush finally dissipating, not into pain, but into faintness. I'm so sorry, Wasabi told him. Kotaro's vision started to go bleak, and as Namida approached them and kneeled alongside Kotaro, he prepared his final words. It's okay, this is an honorable way to go out. I guess, he sighed before breathing in deep. The shock was trying to lull him to sleep, and he was using every bit of power and concentration he had left to stave it off for longer. But eventually, he lay his head down on the ground and allowed the eternal sleep that the shock demanded of his body. Wasabi and Namida, still in disbelief over his death, were disturbed by the woman behind them. The blonde Kara member stood there where she had been knocked back by Namida's sound wave. She was holding her head as if she was having a throbbing headache. You? My ears. Before she could fully regain her senses, Wasabi and Namida looked each other in the eye and nodded. Wasabi then charged forth in a random zigzag pattern, as light-footed and agile as a cat could possibly be. Delta fired 3 rockets, all of which Wasabi expertly dodged and frustrated her enough. Wasabi suddenly fainted close to the blonde, and then quickly pounced back. The blonde panicked and was misled into firing the explosive rocket too close to her own self, which knocked her back. Wasabi rushed out of the way as the Kara member staggered, and Namida fired off another powerful and colorful sound wave, even more powerful than the last one, hitting her directly in the chest and pushing her back, making her tumble head over heels. It knocked the air out from her lungs, and the blonde female got onto her knees and arms, breathing heavily and laboriously. "Nice job, Namida." Wasabi returned to her, giving her a high five and kissing her on the cheek afterwards. "Your training with Orochimaru really paid off," Wasabi pointed out. "I couldn't have done that without you distracting her," Namida replied, as she looked on at her foe. She was getting up, albeit slowly. She let out a blood-curdling growl, and then laughed. Her entire right arm transformed into a sharp sickle-like cutlass, while her left hand morphed into what looked to be a sledgehammer. "Is that all you got, you two lovebirds?" Once Boruto, Sarada, Mitsuki, Sumire, and Shikadai arrived to the scene of the battle, an intersection of 2 streets in the middle of a residential suburban district, they saw Naruto and Sasuke fighting off 2 Kara members, with Sakura and Kakashi also trying to get them off balance and catch them off guard. "Dad, Mom," Sarada exclaimed, "we're here." Her parents both glanced at her direction. "Sarada," they replied in near unison. "How can we help?" Suddenly, a third attacker came flying in and confronted Sakura and Kakashi with his sword and another weapon, similar to a rocket launcher in games he had played, but firing much smaller projectiles at much higher speeds. Boruto recognized him as one of the attackers in the burger restaurant they had been at a while ago. Another Kara member followed, with dual blades unsheathed, and pointed them towards Naruto. "You have a lot to answer for, Lord Seventh, with regards to the Konoha clan massacre." Naruto's eyes grew wide. "So, you must be Amado Konoha. I'm truly sorry about what happened to your family. I had no idea that Kiba would commit such a vile act. Nor did I order it. I swear that to you." Amado peered deeply into Naruto's eyes, and from the way they looked alone, he knew that Naruto was an honest man. "I'll take your word for it, then. You don't look like a man who is evil in secret. But please, we can talk about this in peace." Before anything else could be said, Kashin Koji landed in the center of their battlefield, and immediately the Kara members went into formation around him. "Do not fear, our leader is almost at hand." Naruto and Sasuke, as well as Sakura and Kakashi, returned to their side as well. "Help your mother first," Sasuke ordered his daughter. "Well now," Kashin Koji proudly spoke, "look who it is. Naruto Uzumaki." Naruto suddenly had a horrible feeling gut, and it showed. He breathed in deeply, and lost his composure slightly as he left Kurama's chakra mode. "Who are you? You know who I am. You can feel it inside you. You can sense it. It doesn't matter who you are," Sasuke told him. "What does matter is this battle, one that you are not going to win." "Ah, Sasuke Uchiha," Kashin Koji replied to him. "You've always been so dreadfully serious." He then looked at Sarada. "I thought having a daughter like Sarada-chan would let your heart open up a little." "Don't speak about my daughter," Sasuke warned him as he pointed his katana at him. "Tisk tisk tisk. And Sakura, I thought you would mellow both him and yourself down. It seems like nothing's changed, as if he's never home for you to tame him." "I would never dream of controlling my husband, you messed up piece of shit." Sakura poured vitriol into her words, angry that he was talking with her family that way. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew through, and Jigen appeared above everyone else. Kashin Koji, Boro, Kode, Amado, and Grado, "Stop the talking," Jigen announced, floating gently to the ground, as he arrived from his viewing point. 6 on 9, I see," he observed his surroundings. "The time for talking has long since passed." "No it hasn't," Naruto exclaimed as he got a hold of himself. "Kashin Koji, who are you really?" Kashin Koji looked at Jigen, who sighed then nodded and added, "Fine, you can use your chakra," before Koji walked towards Naruto. "You must know who I am. I know you remember." Naruto stood there, unmoving. He felt the familiar aura, but he was not sure if he was imagining things. Impossible, thought Naruto internally. No, it can't be. Koji approached until he was in front of Naruto. Sasuke had his katana ready, but Naruto waved him off. Remove your mask. Fine by me, Kashin Koji remarked as he formally bowed, one hand in front of him, one hand behind. Allow me to reintroduce myself. Naruto-kun, he said as he removed his mask with one hand. Naruto was stunned and unmoving, his eyes and mouth were agape. Sasuke staggered back, and gasps of utter astonishment and disbelief escaped from Sakura and Kakashi. In case you don't remember, my name is Jiraiya. And you used to call me, Pervy Sage, a lot back then. But, Pain killed you, Nagato killed you, how are you alive, Perv? Within the same blink of an eye, Jiraiya, his mentor, his teacher, his friend, stabbed him in the chest with his dagger, using the hand hidden behind his back. He then slashed outwards, blade serrating sideways on the way out of Naruto's chest, and struck at Sasuke, who stepped back and parried it with his katana. Naruto, whose mouth was oozing with deep crimson blood, now took several staggering steps backwards, before collapsing onto a broken half-wall. Lord Hokage will heal slowly with the Nine Tails chakra, but you guys need to help him to make it quicker. Kakashi shouted in Boruto's direction, as he attacked Kashin Koji to draw him away. Sasuke took on Jigen, as Sakura, Shikadai, and Mitsuki held off the 4 other Kara members. Boruto rushed towards his dad, pressing on the gaping wound and trying to stop the bleeding. Sarada started to perform the first aid techniques that her mother taught her, while Sumair summoned Mini Nu, and transferred chakra from herself to Naruto, to help with the recovery process of the Nine Tails. However, one of the Kara members, Boro, broke away from Shikadai, and lobbed a small high-explosive bomb towards a fallen Naruto. It fell short because he rushed the throw, but it exploded and blew away Boruto, who was closest to it. Even though he blocked and braced for the impact, it still sent him flying just above the crouching Sarada and Sumair, through a wall of a house, and then crashing down through a wooden table that gave way under his sudden weight. Damn it, Sumair, take care of Lord Hokage. I'll get to Boruto. Get to him quickly. Sumair nodded as she continued to transfer her chakra into Naruto. She peered over to look at the wound. It was deep and gruesome, and some of his internal organs, bone-hard ribs, and innermost muscles were slashed open by the serrated dagger of Koji. But they were noticeably healing themselves, and the cavities and tears were closing back ever so slowly. When Sarada reached Boruto, she found him unconscious. She tried to pick him up and carry him, one shoulder over her neck. But as they were about to escape the ruins of the house in which Boruto landed, they were trapped by the same Kara attacker, who aimed his weapon at them. Sarada closed her eyes in surprise and held her hand to shield her eyes. As he fired his gun, she waited for what would happen to them. But nothing did, and as she opened her eyes, the sight terrified her even more than death. Her own father had taken whatever was coming her way instead, and he was down on one knee, with his sword dug into the rubble of the broken wall. Suddenly, Boro shouted in pain and fell to his knees as he was shot in the back from behind by a water bullet from Sumair. Then, Shikadai had caught him with his shadow paralysis jutsu, making sure he couldn't continue his attack. Sumair, who was holding her kunai, lowered her hand, and then focused back on helping Naruto heal. Sasuke slowly got up, then quickly spun around and extended his sword hand, decapitating Boro in an instant, before leaning on the wall and collapsing and coughing up blood. Sarada held his hand and wrapped his arm over her neck as well, and she summoned her inner strength to help both Boruto and Sasuke out from the ruined house. As they came out from the hole made by Boruto's impact, they saw Mitsuki and Kakashi to their right. They were combining Mitsuki's snake lightning jutsu and Kakashi's purple lightning jutsu and fired it, resulting in the main yellow body of snake lightning being orbited by the purple lightning in a spiraling helix shape. This attack hit the ground between the two attackers and caused a sudden blinding flash and loud explosion, disorienting them. Taking advantage of this lull, Mitsuki turned around and ran to Sakura, then grabbed both Sasuke and Boruto with his extended, snake-like arms, and laid them before Sakura, who immediately started healing them both at the same time. Kakashi turned his focus to Jigen, and the two locked blades. Kashin Koji made his way to Naruto and Sumair. Sumair noticed this, and paused the chakra transfer as she raised both her hands, which were shaped as finger guns, and aimed at him. She fired 2 shots at Kashin Koji, who easily dodged them. Shikadai tried to catch him by surprise with shadow paralysis, but Kashin Koji leapt upwards and avoided the shadow. However, as he landed, Mitsuki landed right beside and kicked at him, forcing him to backstep away. Sumair, Shikadai told her, focus on healing Lord Hokage. We'll hold this guy off. Yes, I will, Sumair replied as she once again checked Naruto's wound. She observed that it wasn't as deep as it was merely minutes ago, and that it would not take long before the wound would close fully. It was also much safer to move him now, and so Sumair then dragged him behind the half-wall hedge he laid back on, just to make it a bit safer for them. She started to feel dizzy though, and laid back on the same half-wall, gasping for breath. Sumair dear, Nu nudged her with his tiny squeaky voice, you're running out of chakra. But, I need to help Lord Seventh heal. You don't need to give him just your chakra. I can absorb chakra from my surroundings, and I can disperse or distribute that instead. Sumair felt dumb for a second. I still have to train more with Nu and practice the abilities Nu grant me, she thought to herself, so I can actually remember how and when I can use them. She quickly nodded to Nu. Go ahead, do what you can. At once, the snake transferring chakra from Sumair into Nu was severed, as Nu formed and put together more of its chakra snakes into something that resembled a spiral satellite dish, absorbing what energy it could from the environment, and funneled all of that through itself and into Naruto. Sumair breathed so much easier, and as she rested, she regained more of her chakra. All of a sudden, Sarada landed in front of the half-wall, near Sumair and Naruto, panting and covering a laceration on her shoulder, her Mangekyo Sharingan glowing an eerie shade of red. Sumair saw 2 Kara attackers approaching them, one of whom she recognized from earlier at the burger restaurant. It was Grado, the one who had chosen to leave Namida alone, and the one who had escaped. She stood up and jumped the half-wall, pulled her kunai back out with one hand, and made a finger gun with the other. She stood by Sarada's side, as Nu continued to pump what chakra it had into Naruto to help facilitate the healing. Sarada, are you okay? Do you need chakra? I'm fine, Sarada panted. I'm more worried about you. You spent a lot of your chakra on Lord Hokage's recovery. Are you sure you can fight? Yes, I can. I'll just make do with what I can. So will I. I'm guessing the 2 of you won't surrender, Grado asked. Not a chance, Sarada retorted. In fact, we should be the ones asking you that. Just remember that I left your friend alone. I won't even try to condone what my partner tried to do to her. Sarada nodded. At least you have some principles. But now Koda, the Kara inner beside him then pointed his weapon at Grado's head. You've gone soft, Grado. Next time, I'll teach you a lesson about what should happen to softies in this world. No need for that. Our mission isn't over yet. We still have to destroy the system that crushes the ordinary folk and leaves the few rich people in power, the ninja. Grado charged at Sarada. She sidestepped to her right and countered his moves with her Sharingan and her Shuriken. Sarada's attacker drove her away from Sumair, separating them from each other, while the Koda aimed his unique weapon, a long, brown and black weapon with a circular hole at the end, and which had a strap slung over his neck and shoulder. It was a weapon that Sumair had never seen before. Sumair quickly formed her finger gun, supported it with the arm holding the kunai, and fired 2 water bullets in quick succession before flipping backwards over the half-wall. She saw several metal projectiles go over the half-wall just above her head, and then felt some pieces of the half-wall pelting her skin as well. Sumair rushed to another opening in her low wall, and then peeked over just a bit to see where her attacker had gone, but he had disappeared. Sumair kept scanning for him when he rose up from a low hedge on the opposite side of the street and shot at her, barely missing the top of her hair. Sumair ducked quickly, then stood back up just as fast and exchanged fire with her water bullets. She repeated this process, while making sure to vary her positions along her wall, so as to be unpredictable and make it much harder to be pinned down or sniped away by her attacker. Her attacker quickly copied her tactic once he realized what she was doing. Meanwhile, Sarada ran across the crumbling roofs of burning and ruined houses, jumping over the alleyways onto other buildings, and looking to evade the Kara agent who was chasing after her. She was desperately trying to think of a way to lose him. The idea of using Amaterasu flashed through her mind for a split second, but she decided against it just as quickly. It'll drain my chakra too quickly, she thought to herself as she leapt the street-wide gap across 2 houses, and it'll also leave me vulnerable to counterattacks if any other Kara members are nearby. As she passed by flower pots full of red, orange, and yellow flowers on a windowsill, she remembered a jutsu that she had learned from Lord Sixth, Kakashi-sensei himself, about a month prior. "Wow, where did you learn this jutsu?" she asked Kakashi. "I learned it from my best friend back then, Obito Uchiha." "You're actually related to him. Anyway, he was a hero of the Third Great Shinobi War. He sacrificed himself to save me, and gave me his own Sharingan when my own eye was slashed open. But I thought he was Lord Seventh's enemy in the Fourth Great Shinobi War?" "Well yes, though he did fight against us in the Fourth Great Shinobi War, we made peace near the very end, and he fought with us against Kagaya. He sacrificed himself again, to save me and other people again." Sarada was amazed by the stories Kakashi told her about her relative, about the times they worked as a team during their childhood, times they fought, and the world was back then, especially during the Third and Fourth Great Ninja Wars. "By the way you described him, he seemed like a great man. I want to be like him too." Kakashi chuckled at her statement. "You actually do remind me of him a bit. You have that determination to keep getting better. And you realized early on that allies and friends do matter so much in life. Not to mention that you both share the same dream of being Hokage, and the first Uchiha to hold that title as well. Though your father Sasuke is practically co-Hokage with Lord Seventh, so you exactly won't be the first Uchiha. Still, keep working hard for your goal, and eventually, you'll become a worthy candidate to be the next Hokage." Sarada remembered the jutsu clearly, but she needed the right opportunity to use it. She spotted a corner of an abandoned apartment building, one that had been damaged by explosives from the attackers, and decided that that would be the right place for a surprise counterattack. She ran around a corner and prepared the necessary hand seals. When her attacker ran around the same corner, she unleashed her attack. Fire style. Phoenix Flower Jutsu. She threw multiple shuriken, which all caught fire, towards Grado. He blocked most of them, but 2 of the shuriken stuck to his clothes, which caught fire, and 1 hit the roof he was standing on, breaking through the weakened area and starting a small blaze in the house below them. Instinctively, the Kara inner ripped the shuriken off his cloak, then dropped down and rolled to try and extinguish the fire spreading on his clothes. But in doing this, he caused the weakened roof below him to collapse under the stress of his weight, and he almost fell down into the house, where the small fire was spreading and becoming a blaze. Sarada looked at her helpless foe. She realized she could finish him off right then and there. She could knock him into the inferno below him. But as they made eye contact, she felt an overwhelming sense of guilt. She remembered Lord Seventh telling her that he never once killed an enemy, as far as he remembered at least, and that he preferred to talk them out of it and help them genuinely change. "If I really want to become Hokage," she told herself, "I'd have to follow Lord Seventh's path." She also remembered that he had shown mercy to Namida, even while his own partner and his other teammate in Kara criticized and chewed into him for doing so. "You showed kindness to my friend Namida," she justified to Grado, "and so I'll show kindness to you too. But make sure you leave Konoha now, or else others may not show you the same kindness." Grado pulled himself up from the failing roof and panted against the outside wall of the 2nd floor. "Damn, I would have wanted to destroy the ninja way, and change the status quo tonight, to help the people still being crushed, under the weight of the poverty and oppression, that you rich people and you ninja both cause and ignore, but I'll help that cause better if I'm still alive. I'll accept that. But maybe the way you're fighting for that right ideal is wrong." Sarada, electing not to finish him off, rushed back to assist Sumire, Mitsuki, and whoever else needed help, while Grado ran further south to leave the city. Koda, Sumire's attacker, was becoming more and more impatient by the second, as he was being held up by, in his opinion, a little worthless girl. He needed to be the one to kill the 7th Hokage and extract the 9 tails and its chakra from him, he thought. That way, he could rise in rank to become Jigen's right-hand man, and to prove he was Kashin Koji's equal, or even superior. And of course, his personal goal of making the tailed beasts his slaves, which in his mind could lead him to providing advancements in energy production and military weapons, as well as money and fame. Inspired by this, he began searching once again for the little purple kunoichi who was keeping him from his much-awaited destiny. Sumair was still locked in a lethal long-range duel with her enemy. She once again moved to another position to keep him guessing. She then scanned the surrounding field for any sign of the Kara member. Nothing. She then sighed and lay back down against the half-wall. She looked over to Nu and Lord Hokage, who were about 10 meters away. His wound had almost closed on the outside, but she was sure the internal lacerations would take more time. She started thinking of how she could break the stalemate between her and her attacker. A prolonged sniper battle would favor her attacker, as would a frontal charge by her, which would basically count as suicide. Think Sumair. She talked to herself, trying to run scenarios in her mind and their outcomes. What should I do? What would Wasabi and Namida, or Shikadai and Ryogi, or Mitsuki do? What would Sarada do? What would Boruto do? Wasabi would probably go for a zigzag banzai charge, Sumair analyzed in her head, which in this case would be suicidal, though with her speed and agility, she would be so hard to hit so it would actually work for her. Namida would probably try to root out her attacker with her super sound wave attacks. By now, Shikadai and Ryogi would likely have already come up with some fancy tactics and awesome battle strategies, and use their shadow paralysis and ice traps to their advantage. Mitsuki could use his extendable arms and electric jutsus to surprise and literally shock his opponent. She continued to come up with ideas. Either that, or he'll use his Sage mode. Sarada would probably use her Sharingan to identify where her enemy was. She'll then also use her excellent fire style and shuriken jutsus. As for Boruto, he would usually use his 7 or so shadow clones to confuse the enemy as to which one of them was the real Boruto. He could also use his wind style and lightning style jutsus, or the beginner water jutsus I had started teaching him and helping him out with. Albeit that's unlikely because he only started learning that 2 weeks ago. There's also the Karma Seal. Wait, Sumair told herself to stop thinking too much. Rewind. Wait, that's it. Koda was still looking for his foe when he finally saw violet hair rise above the half-wall, towards the rightmost end. The top half of her face was visible, as she looked for where he was. He slowly aimed his weapon at her head, making sure to account for the distance between them and making the appropriate adjustments. After a few seconds, he fired his weapon. Immediately afterwards, the white head burst into crimson, with the same color staining the wall of the house behind her, as her body collapsed backwards and her shattered head dipped below the low wall. Yes, the Kara Inner exclaimed, jumping up onto the low hedge wall from his position and standing up to try and take a better look at his fallen foe. He celebrated when he saw the desired bloodstains, along with the metal round that had embedded itself in the wall. I got you, bitch. And fuck you for wasting my time, you worthless cunt. Ha ha ha. Unbeknownst to the sadistic Koda, the one he shot had actually dissipated into a small puddle of water upon impact with the ground. It was only a water clone. Meanwhile, a wisp of violet hair rose up from the leftmost end of the low wall, out of the Kara member's field of vision. Sumair, the real Sumair, aimed carefully and fired 5 water bullets in quick succession. The first one hit her target in the middle of the groin, while the other 4 landed in his lower torso, with one of them nicking his spine, and another one piercing straight through his stomach. The attacker screamed in agony and fell down backwards from the low wooden hedge where he had been standing, his voice wailing and echoing. No, Sumair calmly deadpanned as she rose up and walked towards him. I got you. Listening to herself say those words actually unnerved her a little bit, since she sounded so much like her former Shigaraki alter ego, but she shook it off. Nu, come here first, she commanded Nu, who jumped the low wall beside Naruto and promptly ran to her. Sumair looked at her enemy, Koda, who was crumpled against the wall and groaning in severe pain. She grabbed his dropped weapon from him, as well as what looked to be the containers of the projectiles that it fired. It was quite heavy and long, but she managed to lift the unique weapon. It was a curious machine, one that needed no chakra to use. Sumair then turned to Nu. Drain him of his chakra. Completely. Nu looked at her, the surprise evident in its eyes and facial expression. It had been given this command before, but never with the completely part. In the past, she had always allowed her victims enough chakra for them to fully recover. Sumair looked at Nu and nodded in confirmation to emphasize the order. Nu. The little creature happily obliged as it drained the entirety of his chakra. The man trembled and tried in vain to resist. His body experienced spasms and convulsions from the pain, desperation, and despair that he was feeling. But once Nu was finished with him, the man was a husk of his former self, with all of his chakra and energy drained out from him. He was now doomed to die a slow and painful death. Go back to Lord 7th, Sumair ordered Nu, and make sure he fully recovers. Then come back to me as soon as possible, alright? Nu complied and ran back to Naruto, and in the meantime Sumair observed the weapon she had retrieved. She tried copying how she had seen him using it a while ago. I'm guessing you hold it this way. Alright, so left hand on the long end towards the end, and right hand on this downward extension. This hurts my shoulder. I shouldn't lean into it too much. What's this floppy part? What happens when I pull this back? The moment she pulled back on what happened to be the trigger, a huge bang came from the weapon and startled her so much that she yelped loudly. It also powerfully kicked back on her shoulder, and afterwards it felt really sore when she moved it. However, as she was about to interrogate her captive about his weapon before his inevitable death from total chakra loss, she saw that the entire head of Koda had been blown wide open, and that his brain and a whole lot of blood was splattered onto the wall behind him. Both of the eyes were rolling away from the horrific scene, and his nose and ears were dangling from the stump of his head that remained. Sumair realized what had happened, and looked away in horror and disgust from the gory scene that she had accidentally caused. Unwilling to even think about what she had just done by complete accident, Sumair decided to investigate this unique weapon later on, when things would go back to normal, and either by herself or with her friends. She preferred not to study it anywhere near Katasuke, since she suspected that he would either try to mass-produce it as a scientific ninja weapon, or leak the design and manufacturing process of the weapon to others, as he was extremely prone to do so even when he was not under genjutsu. As she turned around, she saw Nu making its way to her, and Lord Hokage standing up and supporting himself on the low wall, which she realized meant that Lord Hokage's recovery was finally complete. To her left, she sensed movement and immediately tensed up, but instead of another Kara attacker, it was Sarada who landed next to her. Sarada, you drove off your attacker? Sumair asked her, as Nu gave Sarada some of its excess chakra. Yes, Sumair. More importantly, how are you? Sarada replied with her own question, concerned for Sumair's well-being. You're not hurt, are you? No, I'm fine. Much more than what can be said about this guy, Sumair told her as she pointed to the remains of Koda. Sarada's eyes followed where she pointed, and immediately looked away in disgust. Oh fuck? What happened to him? Well, the 5 water bullets and the complete chakra drain, that's me. I outsmarted him in a sniper battle. Then his head, I can explain. Sarada, Sumair, are you two okay? Naruto asked as he quickly approached them, only to see the carnage of the corpse beside the two. Shit, why is his head split open? Lord 7th, I swear it was an accident. I was trying out his weapon when that happened, Sumair admitted as she wore the strap of her new discovery over her shoulder and put the weapon on her back. Lord Hokage, she didn't do this intentionally, Sarada vouched emphatically for Sumair in front of Naruto. We both know Sumair's not the type to do something that horrific. Not on purpose, at least. Don't worry about that. Naruto waved it off as insignificant. It's not really a problem right now. We need to focus now on driving off Kara from the village. Sarada and Sumair noticed the ongoing battles in the distance. Shikadai and Mitsuki were working together against Kashin Koji, but they weren't doing so well by the looks of it. Both Kashin Koji and Mitsuki had activated their respective Sage modes, while Shikadai was constantly being targeted by Kashin Koji and was badly outmatched, with Mitsuki having to divert his attention to keep Shikadai from being killed. Kakashi was still dueling with Jigen, and it looked like it was a close one, with neither of them giving any ground. In the distance, they saw that Boruto had regained consciousness, and was helping Sakura treat Sasuke's wounds. Sakura's hand looked to be inside Sasuke's torso, trying to remove the projectiles still lodged inside him. I think I'll go unleash Kurama, Naruto told them as he re-entered Kurama's chakra mode. Kurama, don't fail me now. Naruto, you idiot. Kurama replied from inside him, you're the one who's more likely to embarrass me. Don't you dare die on me. Naruto smirked, shook his head, and ran to assist Kakashi and battle Jigen. Nu, Sumair asked after seeing Naruto and Kurama work together. Grow as large as you can with the chakra you have right now. Nu nodded, and from Mini Nu, who can stand on Sumair's shoulders without much trouble, it expanded to the size of a liger, and it was big enough for Sumair and 2 other people can ride on. It was nowhere near as large as when they attacked Konoha years ago, but it would suffice. Sumair's artificial summoning growled in a cute way, rubbing its mane against Sumair. Its canine teeth were much more visible, and its face more ferocious. Sarada had never seen Nu this large, and up close at that. She was intimidated at first, but the more she observed the way it acted towards Sumair, the more comfortable she felt with it. Sumair jumped on its back, and offered a hand to Sarada, who accepted it and also mounted Nu. It roared loudly and sprinted to help Mitsuki and Shikadai, who were barely holding on against Kashin Koji. Sarada had to grip tightly around Sumair's waist to avoid falling off. Mitsuki was getting extremely fatigued. His Sage mode was costing him a lot of chakra, and he couldn't even focus all his attention on Kashin Koji, as Shikadai was being chased around and targeted. Mitsuki charged forward and tackled Kashin Koji, allowing Shikadai some time to recover and get away. However, Mitsuki was thrown over Koji's head in an expert maneuver, and Mitsuki crashed through the glass windows of a house and was showered with sharp broken shards raining down all around him. With that, Koji continued his one-sided assault on Shikadai, who had already been badly wounded on his left arm by a slashing attack of Kashin Koji that was too fast to dodge. Shikadai kept trying to catch him with shadow paralysis, to no avail. Shikadai then fell again, as his right leg was struck just above the knee by a bullet from Koji's steely revolver pistol. He felt a gaping rupture in his quadriceps tendon, since the bullet tore through, impacting his femur and kneecap, and fragmenting into several smaller pieces that did additional damage to the surrounding structure of his knee. He could barely put any weight on it, much less stand or walk on it, and so he raised his right hand in a sign of surrender. "Well," Koji told him, "I have you immobilized. But just to make sure." Sage art. Toad oil bomb. A mass of brownish oil came out from Koji's mouth and landed around Shikadai. The oil was extremely sticky and viscous, and Shikadai couldn't move anywhere since he was stuck waist deep in the oil. The one saving grace for Shikadai was that the thick oil plugged his wounded knee and stopped the bleeding, and somewhat numbed him to the pain as well. Wind style. Great breakthrough. Mitsuki arrived and tried to break through the oily trap. Wind style. Wind scythe. Neither attack had any effect. "I think you need water to make the oil less viscous and easier to remove," Shikadai told him. "You are correct," Koji replied to him, clapping. "I see you are indeed the son of Shikamaru. Same looks, same intellect, and same jutsus. Who's your mother? Why would you want to know?" "Just asking. I may have known her from years past. Oh, and if you don't answer my questions truthfully, or if your friend tries to attack me, I'll burn you alive." With that, he summoned a round flame bullet, but held it in place. Mitsuki grit his teeth, but couldn't do anything about it, unless he wanted Shikadai to die. "My mom is Tamari Nara." Koji observed his eyes as well as his attitude and smirked. "She was a fine woman back then, and I'm sure she's even better now, not to mention much curvier now. Don't you dare talk about my mother. You're not in any position to make demands, boy. Now stop whining about it. If you do, maybe I'll go easy on your mother. But I will make her moan my name out loud, if you know what I mean." "Fuck you," Shikadai cursed as his blood started to boil over. In the past, Mitsuki had heard some innuendos from Wasabi, Namida, Inojin, and Shikadai. Truthfully, they were still unclear and vague to him, and he did not exactly understand what they truly meant. But this time, he finally connected the dots. "So this is why they called you the pervert sage, as Jiraiya, the former mentor of Lord Hokage." "That's not important, Mitsuki." Shikadai turned to Mitsuki. "Can you break the ground below me?" "No, he can't," Koji answered for him, as he approached the oil with the flame bullet still in his hand. "Next question. Who's your best friend?" "My guess would be Boruto-kun, but if you have a surprise answer for me, I would listen." Shikadai stared at the fire bullet, which was spinning and rotating just above Koji's hand. He wondered if it would be better if he sacrificed himself and went up in flames. That way, Mitsuki could attack Koji outright without having to care about him. That being said, Shikadai noticed that Kashin Koji didn't appear tired at all, while Mitsuki was still noticeably fatigued and trying to catch his breath. He internally cursed himself for being the weak link and causing Mitsuki's Sage Mode transformation to be of little use offensively. He looked around for any help, and saw Sarada being chased around, and Kakashi holding off Jigen. He last saw Lord Hokage being dragged behind the low wall where Sumair was now pinned down in a high-stakes sniper battle, and in the distance he saw Boruto and Sakura trying to heal Sasuke. In any case, he realized that the best thing he could do was buy as much time as he could, either for Mitsuki to recover and attack, and for anyone else who could help to get there. Are you going to answer me, or should I let this flame consume you? Fine. Yes, Boruto is my closest friend, and he has been for a long time. Though, I also have someone else I consider to be another one of my closest friends, and in other ways my brother. His name is Ryogi. My parents have practically adopted him, and he sleeps in the room across the hallway from me. We play shogi and Game of the Generals in our favorite series of video games, and we share each other's secrets. As he exited his Sage Mode to conserve more chakra, Mitsuki was puzzled as to why Shikadai was sharing that much information unnecessarily, and why Kashin Koji, or formerly Jiraiya, was listening intently. Suddenly, it came to him that Shikadai was delaying Koji to give Mitsuki some much-needed time to recover, and probably trying to lull him to a false sense of safety. It was a very smart move, and Mitsuki definitely owed Shikadai for it. I'm trying to integrate him into my group of friends now, actually. Is that right? Koji asked him, who was also resting up his chakra. Even though he didn't look like it, he had gotten somewhat tired from having to fend off Mitsuki, who was in Sage Mode as well, all while trying to pick off and eliminate the weaker Shikadai. Who are in this group of yours? Maybe I'll spare them. In the group, there's Boruto, who's sort of the leader or nucleus of the group, then Sarada, whose goal is to become the next Hokage. A loud booming sound, followed by obnoxious yelling and vulgar cheering, startled and interrupted him. Ah, that must have been Koda, Koji told him. No need to worry, he probably just finished off one of your friends, or maybe even Naruto himself. Shikadai clenched his teeth when Kashin Koji told him that, but he continued to buy more time. He prayed that Sarada, Sumair, the Hokage, and everyone else weren't hurt. So, back to the topic, there's Mitsuki over here to my left as well. Mitsuki was unsure about how to play along with Shikadai's plan to allow them more time, so he just waved awkwardly to Kashin Koji. Hello there, nice to meet you? Kashin Koji stared at him in confusion, then laughed. Are you sure you're the spawn of Orochimaru? You don't act one bit like him. Still, tell him I said hi. I will. Anyway, Shikadai picked up to continue his delaying tactic. After them, there's me, Ryogi, Inojin, Himawari, who's the daughter of Lord Seventh and Hinata, and Chocho. Then Metal Lee, Iwabe, and Denki, and then lastly, Sumair, Wasabi, and Namita. That's a big group of friends, Koji mused. You guys really had it lucky, living in a peaceful world, where none of your friends died during missions or wars. Another loud bang was heard. In any case, Koji continued without much care to the abrupt sound, which he had concluded was Koda finishing off another Konoha defender, or maybe even Naruto. Do you have a girlfriend? Shikadai paused at the question, and his face reddened even further. But it was to keep up with the ruse of buying time for everyone, so he answered the question. Not quite yet, though I'm interested in someone. She's from the Hidden Sand Village, and her name is Yodo. She's an expert in wind and sound style. Very similar to your mother, I take it? You could say that. Though, Yodo has much more modern tastes and attitudes with regards to relationships, music and such. She's not really held back by the old customs and traditions. Koji chuckled, smirking as he guessed what that meant. So you guys have fucked already? Before Shikadai could even reply to that assumption, there was a loud roar that pieced the air, and as they looked in the direction of the roar, Shikadai saw Sarada and Sumair riding a much larger and fiercer-looking version of Nu toward them. He breathed a sigh of relief that he didn't have to stall for much longer, nor answer the ridiculous questions of Koji anymore. Are we late to the party? Sarada asked as she, Sumair, and Nu arrived. Sumair leapt off Nu, and Sarada followed, albeit more carefully. My, the result of the Gozu to Nu experiment, Koji remarked and applauded at Nu, taking his attention off of the immobilized Shikadai and the fatigued Mitsuki. I never thought I'd get to see such a marvelous beast. And you girl, the one with purple hair. He looked at Sumair as if he recognized her. I think I've seen you before, from when you were little. You must be Tanuki's daughter? How do you know my father? When your family went into exile, you moved around quite a lot. If I remember correctly, you lived in Tani with all its rivers and valleys, among all the artisans of Takumi, and Aim with its perpetual rain. Your father told me everything. I only remember my time in Aim, Sumair replied. I was too young to remember the other two. Sumair, Sarada interrupted as she held Sumair's shoulder. I don't think talking to him is a good idea. Nonsense, Koji cut Sarada off. Or maybe you'd rather I your friend over here? Because if she doesn't talk to me, I will do just that. Sarada clenched her fist, but Sumair held Sarada's hand, the one on her own shoulder. Don't worry about it. At least for now, we're talking and not fighting. Sumair then whispered quietly in Sarada's ear, we need to buy us more time. This one has good sense, Koji observed and smirked. For a second there, you sounded like Naruto when he was much younger, always the talker and peacemaker. I would know, because I was his sensei for years. I caught that your name was Sumair? Koji continued. It's a beautiful name, one that definitely matches you. In any case, I met your father in AIM, when he was asking for financial and technical support with his Gozu Tenu experiment. It was just after his wife, your mother, died, and he had become more and more desperate to complete his life's work. I do remember seeing him leave you out in the wilderness, repeatedly at that, and you managed to survive and return every time. He tried to mold you into a living weapon, the carrier of the Gozu Tenu and the grim fate of Konoha's destruction. Looks like he succeeded there. Sumair looked at him blankly. She remembered those times well, they were etched and carved into her mind. She recalled the times when her father was drunk, on alcohol and on anger. He used to strike her a lot. He knocked her baby teeth out, and he broke bones in her face, her fingers, her arms, and her ribs, whenever she showed what he deemed as unnecessary emotions, which were mostly happiness and sadness. He used to berate her for being useless around the house, for being a weak girl and not a strong boy. He used to drag her by her wrist at night, walk kilometers away from their house, and then literally kick her down by the wayside as he ran back in the darkness to his house. She had to go back there all by herself, in the unending rain and dark streets of AIM. A kind old lady, who also had long purple hair and was dressed in a fashionable kimono, noticed what happened and took her in, letting her sleep comfortably in one of the tall iron towers. Sumair would stay there with the woman who took care of her, fed her, clothed her properly, and showed her kindness and compassion. She would eventually become almost like her second mother. But then her dad would come and take her away under the pretense of remorse, only to repeat the process every week. Whenever she did return to her father's house, she endured even more punishment, humiliation, sickness, and neglect. Sumair remembered that it had become such a routine, that her father would abandon her by the curb if she had failed any of his expectations, or if he simply wanted to inflict pain on his own daughter, that every night the old lady would literally wait by the entrance steps of her tower to see if she would be left behind that night. However, once Tanuki saw that the old lady had been softening Sumair's heart, and in the process undoing his plans of basically removing all sense of emotion, love, regret, and compassion from Sumair, he took Sumair and left AIM for good, so that she would not be negatively influenced by the old lady's love and care. To Sumair, it was as if her father never really wanted her, nor did he ever truly love her. He looked at her and thought of her as his abject failure, his biggest regret, and his worst sin. There were times when she thought about not going back home, of living with the kind old lady in AIM, or even running away to another village and living by herself. But she never did, and it was because she didn't run away and because she chose endure everything, that she learned how to deceive, how to fight, how to run, how to hide her emotion and her pain and her existence, and how to survive. And she did get new because of her father, albeit in the cruelest manner possible, as her father ordered her to use Nu to carry out the suicide mission he had given her. However, her father neglected to teach her the most basic things. He never taught her how to relate to others, how to laugh, how to feel, how to forgive and empathize, how to care, how to love, and how to truly live. It was because of the things he neglected to teach her, that she could not bring herself to forgive her father, ever. You're wrong, Sumair replied. My father failed, both in his experiment and in raising me. The Gozu Tenu is broken, and I don't consider him as my father. I shed my Shigaraki name a long time ago. My real name is Sumair Kake. But he did not. You are still here, and so is the new. And no matter how much you try, you will never escape your past, not to mention your destined future. Run from it, hide from it, and yet your destiny will still arrive and happen. Take it from me. Sumair looked at the ground below her feet, a depressed, troubled, conflicted expression written all over her face. Sumi. Sarada gently gripped her close friend's shoulder, making sure that Sumair was still mentally there with her. I still don't know a lot of details about your past, but don't you worry. You're one of my best friends, and I'll be here to listen to you as you tell me your story. How about later this week, even before your birthday, we go out for a cup of our favorite teas? It could be just the two of us, or you can bring Wasabi and Namida again, whatever you want. You can tell me more of your story then. Sumair looked Sarada in the eyes, and slowly the bitterness and anger faded away, only to be replaced by determination, contentment, and hope. I'll take you up on that offer, Sumair smiled when she replied to Sarada. And yes, we'll bring both Wasabi and Namida along. You know that they'd love to have another date again. Koji scoffed derisively. Unfortunately for you and your plans, there will be no tomorrow for you lot. Once I am finished with you, I will take Nu, and I will use him to help destroy the other ninja nations, as Tanuki had always intended. If you won't fulfill his wish, I will. Over my dead body, Sumair coldly replied as she turned her attention once again to him, drawing out her kunai and aiming directly between his eyes. You will never get your hands on Nu. Nor will you hurt anyone else here. Kashin Koji extended his arm and showed the flame bullet, still rotating in his hand over the very flammable oil. I still don't think you know who I am. I am Kashin Koji, formerly Jiraiya of the legendary Sannin, and the old sensei of your Lord Hokage himself. What could you possibly do against me? Sumair exhaled. Well, you definitely don't know who I am. I am Sumair Kake, formerly Shigaraki. And I can do this. Without warning, Sumair adjusted her aim slightly and shot a concentrated water bullet out from her kunai. The water bullet hit the fire bullet and turned it into harmless steam. As soon as Koji realized what had happened, Sarada leapt at him and attacked him with her kunai. Mitsuki also sent wind scythes in his direction. Koji leapt backwards and rotated his body, narrowly dodging both attacks at the same time. Sumair turned to Shikadai and weaved a set of signs. Water style. Great waterfall jutsu. A huge cascade of water flowed down from Sumair's hands and fell onto the sticky oil surrounding Shikadai. At first, it made the oil less viscous and more slippery, but the water quickly sunk down beneath the oil, and Shikadai was still not able to move much. Shikadai tried to get his feet free from the trap, but slipped due to the water underneath the oil and fell down on his back. Now, his entire back and his head were stuck to the oil. Just then, they heard shouts close by, and they saw Himawari and Inojin rushing by them. The two of them, as well as Hinata who was running right behind them, joined Sarada and Mitsuki holding Kashin Koji at bay. Ryogi stopped to help Sumair get Shikadai out from the sticky oil. Are we late? Ryogi asked the two of them. Not too late, Sumair replied. Just in the nick of time actually. It looks like we need more water, Shikadai observed. Wait, what happens if we try to freeze the oil? Will it be easier to break? I'll just as likely freeze you, Ryogi told him. Sumair thought of a plan. I think we need more water to lessen the viscosity, and then we need someone to pull you out from the oil. If someone tries to pull me out, they'll probably slip and get stuck here too. Not if that someone has cable-like arms, Sumair pointed out as she looked at Mitsuki. Or Nu in his tails. I guess we have to give it a shot, Ryogi added, looking at Shikadai in his literally sticky situation. It's better than me having to freeze you along with the oil and water. Mitsuki, we need you here now. Sumair shouted as she repeated her previous jutsu and pulled out another great deluge of water. Mitsuki turned to them and left Koji to Sarada, Inojin, Himawari, and Hinata. He landed alongside Ryogi and Nu. We'll need you two to pull Shikadai from the oil once the viscosity is low enough, Ryogi told the two artificial beings. Okay, Mitsuki replied as he extended both his arms and wrapped them around Shikadai's neck and shoulders to support him. Nu wrapped his white tail around Shikadai's back to support him. Both gradually increased the force on their pulling, and slowly they were able to lift Shikadai back to his original upright position. Now Sumair focused her downpour on the area surrounding Shikadai's feet, and Mitsuki adjusted the position of his arms and wrapped them both under Shikadai's shoulders. Nu did the same to provide double the force needed to free Shikadai from the sticky trap. Suddenly, they heard a startling explosion behind them, and they saw Himawari, Inojin, and Hinata all being blown back and knocked down by a blast. They also noticed that Koji was looking at them now, not at Sarada who was indirectly in front of him. Within the same second he appeared directly in front of them. Your efforts are all in vain. Koji formed another flame bullet in his hand and immediately fired it at the oil, only for it to be kicked to the side in the nick of time by a hard-charging Sarada. Her Mangekyo Sharingan was glowing bright red, contrasting with the black cyclical pattern inside. If only I could use my fire or lightning-style jutsus, Sarada internally told herself in that moment, I could fight this guy better. But I might cause a stray spark or ember to land on the oil and make it catch fire, so I won't take that chance. Sarada jumped upwards and quickly turned around in midair, cocking back her fist. Shan Aru, Sarada screamed, as she descended onto Koji with a massive punch. However, Kashin Koji sidestepped, and Sarada formed a huge crater in the ground with her punch. Koji formed a Rasengan in his hand and lunged into Sarada, driving it deep into her chest and knocking her back into a wall, which cracked and gave way around Sarada. Koji turned his attention to Shikadai once again. He fired one last flame bullet into the oil, which immediately ignited into a blazing inferno. Sumair tried to put it out with her water, but the oil merely floated to the top of the deluge and kept burning on the surface of the water. Shikadai screamed in agony, his lower legs being burned, and the heat and smoke preventing him from breathing. Even Mitsuki felt the heat on his arms, as the flames nearly reached his shoulder level. Smiling maliciously, Koji looked at the despair he had created, before he turned his attention to Sarada, who was still lying against the cratered wall she was flung to. Mitsuki, Nu, Ryogi begged him, pull him out of there now. We're trying. Mitsuki replied with a hint of desperation in his voice, as he tugged up on Shikadai's shoulders. Shikadai budged upwards a bit, and his body was free all the way to his ankles. But his feet were still stuck in the burning oil. Shikadai's pants had caught fire as well, so Sumair refocused her downpour to make Shikadai's clothes wet and damp enough to prevent major burning. Shikadai's screams began to fade in volume, while his strained coughing took over, as he started to suffocate in the thick, noxious, poisonous smoke of the burning oil beneath him. He finally lurched forward, his head down and his body limp, only standing because of Mitsuki and Nu supporting him upright. Nu, Mitsuki, Sumair angrily pointed out, I don't care if you break his legs or his ankles. Just get him out of there now. Mitsuki listened to her and nodded. Shikadai's life depended on how quickly he got him out of there. Mitsuki gave one great tug and finally pulled Shikadai from the blaze, although it was accompanied by several popping noises that were likely his ankles breaking or his knees dislocating. Once Shikadai landed on the ground, Ryogi pulled off Shikadai's shoes, socks, and pants. Shikadai's feet were not that heavily burned, as the fire had spread upwards and not downwards through the oil and water. However, because of that, his ankles and lower legs were badly burnt and charred. His thighs were mildly scorched and singed, and the skin beginning to peel off. Ryogi quickly weaved signs corresponding with his ice style. Ryogi, Sumair asked him, interrupting his focus, take care of Shikadai. We'll go help Sarada and the others out. Ryogi nodded. Of course. Be careful, you guys. Sumair turned to Nu. Nu, please stay here and provide Ryogi whatever assistance he needs, okay? Nu. Sumair and Mitsuki rushed to assist Sarada, Himawari, Inojin, and Hinata. Meanwhile, Ryogi resumed his jutsu. Ice style. Frozen capture. Thick ice came from Ryogi's hands and wrapped around Shikadai, heavily on the lower legs and lightly on the upper legs and the feet. That should delay the skin from dying, and numb the pain as well. Shikadai kept coughing, and Ryogi rolled him over onto his back to make sure Shikadai didn't choke. You'll be alright, Shikadai, just keep breathing, don't you dare die on me, and not on Dad and Mom, and especially not on Yodo. She'll definitely kill me if I let you die. You're strong for such a young age, Koji mused as he slowly approached a barely conscious Sarada, another Rasengan forming in his hands. But without your friends, you're not much. Not anything I can't handle, for sure. Sarada tried to raise her hands, but her strength failed her. Her eyes ached terribly, and she was having lots of difficulty seeing, even with her glasses still more or less intact. In fact, Koji was a blur to her, and he was in right front of her. No matter, the Uchiha line will end tonight, as will all of Konoha. And in the next few days, the whole ninja world. With that, Kashin Koji drove a second Rasengan into her chest. Sarada's head fell forward and she spat out a mouthful of blood. Her glasses began to slip down her face, but she lifted her head in time to face her attacker one last time, blood starting to flow from her mouth and nose. "Is that all you got?" Sarada smirked and laid her head against the wall, her breathing labored, and her wheezing filled with pain and agony. Incensed, Koji formed a third Rasengan, but as he arched back to deliver the killing blow, his hand was caught. He turned around and saw Mitsuki with his extended snake arms wrapping around his wrist. Lightning style, snake lightning. A yellow stream of electricity flowed through the snake arms, and Koji was electrocuted. As Koji was trapped and shaking due to the electricity, Sumair landed in front of Sarada, and aimed her kunai at him. Water style, water spirit wave. A water bullet burst out from her finger, and it hit Koji in the chest. As the water bullet impacted Koji, it interacted with the strong electric current passing through him, and caused a small explosion sending him flying. He landed on his back and rolled backwards to his knees. He got up, wobbly as he stood, and noticed that Himawari, Inojin, and Hinata were flanking him on his sides, ready to pounce on him. He realized that the longer this battle drew out, the worse the situation would become for him. Being smart and tactical, he turned around and sped away, regrouping with Jigen, who was having more success battling with Kakashi and Naruto. Inojin rushed to Shikadai, and Himawari and Hinata followed him after asking Sumair and Mitsuki if Sarada was alive. Sumair immediately jumped to Sarada's side. As a result of the sheer power of Koji and the two Rasengans she took, Sarada was bleeding copiously, dark red blood flowing from her mouth, nose, and the back of her head. Sarada was also finding it really difficult to keep breathing, as the blood that did not come out of her nose and mouth began to pool instead inside her lungs. "Sarada, we're here," Sumair reassured her as she tended to her, holding her hand to assure her. She also put Sarada's glasses back into the normal position. A groan escaped Sarada's mouth, along with more blood. "Sumair, Mitsuki," Sarada weakly replied, gripping Sumair's hand tightly. "I feel faint. You'll be fine. Just stay awake for me, promise?" Sumair reassured her, returning the grip and turning to Mitsuki. "We need to take her to Aunt Sakura." Nu came to them after ensuring that Shikadai would live, and Sumair climbed on top of her summon. Mitsuki got on board behind her, and then grabbed Sarada, one extended arm supporting her neck and shoulders, and the other extended arm holding her at the knees. Nu moved at a slow enough pace to not let Mitsuki and Sarada fall off. As soon as they arrived to Sakura, Sumair quickly dismounted from Nu and ran to them, Mitsuki being more gingerly as he held a badly wounded Sarada in his arms. Sakura had just finished Sasuke's treatment, and Sasuke was breathing deeply, trying to regain his chakra. Boruto was also tired from helping Sakura, and laid back against the wall with his master, giving him water. "Sumair, thank goodness you guys are safe." Boruto rushed forward, and he and Sakura gave Sumair a tight hug. "I'm so glad you're alright." Sumair responded as she returned the hug. "I was really worried about you. You got blown away by a bomb. Of course I'd be alright." Boruto confidently replied, giving Sumair his trademark sign of grinning and rubbing the back of his head. "I was much more worried about Sasuke-sensei. He was badly hurt because of the weapons Kara is using. But Aunt Sakura and I got all the projectiles lodged in his back, and fully healed the wounds they caused." Boruto showed her 3 deformed, cylindrical pieces of metal, which Sumair observed closely. "Anyway," Boruto continued, "how's my dad? You were helping him heal with Nu, right? He's better now. Lord Seventh is fighting the enemy along with Kakashi-sensei now. How about Sarada? Where is she?" Sakura and Boruto asked near simultaneously. Sumair looked at them with worry and uncertainty, not knowing what to say, and then looked back at Mitsuki who was slowly walking to them, an unconscious, bloody Sarada in his arms. Sakura screamed in horror as she saw her only child mangled and near death. Mitsuki laid her down gently while Sakura knelt by Sarada's side and used medical ninjutsu on her to diagnose the damage dealt and heal her thereafter. She has heavy internal bleeding, her lungs are filling with blood. Her organs are starting to shut down, her chakra levels are dangerously low, and she's going into shock. Sumair knelt down beside the unconscious Sarada. She needs chakra too, right? Yes, Sakura replied to her daughter's best friend. She needs a steady supply of it, like an IV drip. Nu, Sumair turned to it as it approached her, can you transfer chakra into her? Just like what you did with Lord Hokage. Nu purred softly and nodded. It sent out one chakra snake, which bit deep into Sarada and injected into one of her veins. With its other dark purplish chakra snakes, Nu then formed a smooth surface, which looked something like a satellite dish, as it absorbed more chakra from the environment. The chakras soon began to flow through Nu and into Sarada. Amazing, Sakura remarked, as she observed what Sumair and Nu were doing. She continued healing Sarada's internal organs, while Sumair kept her vital signs stable and in check, while also replenishing her nearly empty chakra stores. Boruto and Mitsuki sat beside Sumair, while Sasuke stood up and knelt by Sakura's side. What happened to my daughter? Sasuke demanded to know. She got hit by 2 Rasengans from Kashin Koji, Sumair told him. Mitsuki and I barely stopped a third one. Where is he now? Sasuke asked angrily. Boruto could tell that Sasuke wanted to hurt and to kill Koji, or Jiraiya, or whoever he was now, for hurting his beloved daughter. He probably regrouped with the remaining attackers, Mitsuki replied. I think Kakashi-sensei and Lord Hokage are fighting them now. That settles it. I'm going over there to help. Sasuke said as he kissed his wife on the forehead. Sakura pulled him back to kiss him on the lips. Please honey, Sakura asked him, stay safe there okay? I will, my love. Our Sarada will be okay right? I'll do everything I can. I promise, she'll be alright. Sasuke kissed her again and hugged her. Then he turned to the rest of them. Are you coming with me or staying here? Boruto and Mitsuki stood up and went to Sasuke's side. I'll follow, Sumair told them. Once we get Sarada's condition to a safe level, I'll join up with you. Stay safe while you're at it, Sumair, Boruto worriedly reminded her before the 3 of them sprinted off.